Good morning, Krusty Crew.
Hey, Patrick! You all ready for the big night out tonight?
Yeah, it's gonna rock.
Are you ready to go crazy?
I'm already hearing voices.
Are you ready to...
SpongeBob, Patrick, do you mind?
Let's continue this conversation in private, Patrick. I think some people...
aren't a fan of the Colorado Avalanche. Good sticks, everyone. Welcome to Season 2 of the Captain Avalanche Fancast, your unofficial source for all things Colorado Avalanche hockey and more from a fan perspective, hosted by me, Captain Avalanche Corey, and our local Sharks expert, Dom. Now, we're still no insiders. We're not inside the locker room face-to-face with our favorite players, but we hope to create a relatable and welcoming environment because we're just like all of you listening, fans. Fans with a deep passion for the game of hockey, and in this case, the Colorado Avalanche. We're back, and so is hockey. Well, almost. Woohoo! But we're here at least. Today, we are the Farmer's Almanac of the Colorado Avalanche and San Jose Sharks 2025-2026 season. Don't know what a Farmer's Almanac is? Well, we're going to tell you everything that's going to happen for our teams this 2025-26 NHL season with perfect accuracy and zero errors. Everything we say today is 100% truth, and you should have no doubts in what we are about to tell you. So, if I say that the Dallas Stars will be absorbed into the sun, you can take that as an irrefutable fact. Because if I learned anything from last season, it's that we here at the Captain Avalanche Fancast are wrong, never wrong, literally ever. But to break it down for you fine listeners and enjoyers of Avalanche and San Jose Sharks hockey, today we are bringing you a season preview for both of those teams. As hosts, we will each deliver our well-researched and insightful predictions for the Avs, Sharks, and the league as a whole, our preseason comments, observations, and complaints, our preseason divisional rankings, and an overall outlook on the long 82-game road ahead. Along the way, I'm sure we will derail the conversation with some momentary insanity and lots of yelling, but if I know anything, we're going to have a good time. However, before we get into any of that nonsense that I just told you about, just who the heck are we? In case this is your first time here, first of all, welcome. We're happy and grateful that you are here and spending your time with us. Second of all, I am one half of the dynamic duo that hosts this little show, Captain Avalanche Corey. In case you missed it in the intro, I live and breathe the Colorado Avalanche. They take priority over all things in my life except for my own mother. I love this team and all its players, no matter how neurotic they make me. I have been watching hockey going on about 9 years now and found my love for the sport much later in life, but ever since I fell in love, I fell hard. I had the idea to start this show that you're listening to now right after watching the Avalanche win the 2022 Stanley Cup because I wanted an outlet to share my love of this team and of this sport. My goal is to not only make this podcast the biggest show about the Colorado Avalanche, but truly to grow the game of hockey. I genuinely believe that hockey is for everyone, and I wanted to create a show from that fan perspective and make every episode something that new fans could understand and enjoy, and experienced fans can still gain something new from. But I knew with all this ambition that I couldn't do it alone, so I entered into a contract with an incubus that stated we had to talk about the San Jose Sharks so he would do this show with me. Of course, I'm joking, but this show would truly be nothing without my incredible co-host and banter extraordinaire, Dom from the Tank. Dom, who the fuck are you?
Well, hello, everyone. This is Dom the Incubus. I feel like I should be Dom the Incubus moving forward instead of Dom from the Tank. That just sounds fun. For the record, for those of you who did not know what a farmer's almanac is, I actually did not know that. I've heard of almanacs before, but that was just a funny little thing that Corey has taught me today as well. So even here, while we're trying to share our thoughts, opinions that are totally 100% accurate, we're still learning from each other every time we record. So much fun. Great to be here, Corey. Glad we're here with season 2. But honestly, for all of you here listening, like Corey, I'm a diehard hockey fan who's been watching the NHL and riding its emotional roller coaster for quite a long time. Unlike Corey, though, as he mentioned, I have always been a Sharks fan, as you might have guessed from my moniker, Dom from the Tank. And I have to say, when Corey shared his vision and asked me to co-host, I personally was very honored and immensely grateful to be part of his mission. As Corey said, I believe hockey is a beautiful sport, blending skill, speed, and grit into a masterpiece. God, I can't even speak today. A masterpiece. We'll add that to the fun words of wisdom for those of you who've listened to our first season. But hockey truly is a masterpiece that everyone should be able to access and enjoy. I wholeheartedly endorse and endeavor to fulfill the mission statement that Corey has described, and even more. And personally, I have to say that not only did this podcast provide me a chance to express my passion and admittedly my opinions about hockey, but it also gave me an opportunity to speak more often and reconnect with a dear friend. So, Corey, thank you. Just how much your trust and friendship has had a positive, you don't understand just how much your trust and friendship has had a positive impact on my life. And being able to record this podcast together has really been quite incredible. And I hope we continue to do this for a very long time and bring the content for all of you listening. But not to get too sappy too early in the episode. We got a long way to go. We don't have time for tears.
Not the final episode of the season.
So,
what are you doing?
So I'll keep it moving. A bit more about my personal backstory. I honestly can't remember an age when I wasn't watching hockey, but I would honestly reasonably estimate that it has been at least 17 years as a fan, thanks to my father, Joe. He's a massive Sharks fan himself, and my dad taught me to appreciate defense and goaltending in a game enamored and just enveloped with these offensive talents and fancy new tricks every year. He's also responsible for creating the Sharks Pledge of Allegiance that I still recite before every game to this day. And I don't know if we recorded that last season, but if we didn't, I'll have to say it on the air for all of you listening this year.
We did, but you are free to share with everybody once again whenever you're ready.
I won't be saying that this evening. We'll save it for a later day before an actual regular season game.
I see.
People can go and listen through our first season to try to track it down, or keep listening in each week and wait till I drop those words of wisdom. But to finish up about myself, I've been living in Colorado for over a decade now. And throughout that time, my Avalanche fandom has slowly but steadily increased, mainly from watching games with Corey, starting in our old dorm rooms and progressing all the way to the playoffs in Ball Arena, watching the Avalanche defeat the Stars in Game 6 this past spring. Make no mistake, my blood runs teal and loyalty always resides with San Jose, but I've been grateful to witness the highly talented Avalanche rosters of recent years, while the Sharks have struggled and receded into a rebuild. So long as our teams aren't on opposing ends of the ice, I'll be rooting for the Avs all the way, all season long.
That is, I think, unfortunately, an after effect of being around me. A lot of people who have had the pleasure or displeasure of meeting me in real life have said that exact thing, that their hockey fandom has grown tenfold or has been born out of the endless conversations with me. And I told people at my new job that I'm about to get so much worse once October 7th rolls around here, because once that point rolls around, I just talk about hockey exclusively. It's all I enjoy talking about.
Worse or better? Worse or better, though, because this is what you are passionate about. This is the highlight of your personality. Own it. This is when your best self shines, Corey, when you are at your happiest. So if they don't like it, they're the problem, not you. That's all I got to say.
There are some people who make their entire personality like all the different love reality shows, Love Island, Love is Blind, Love. I don't know. I don't watch those shows. I'm sorry. Mine is hockey. So anyway, we're past the scripted point in the show. Is it scripted? Is it not? Kinda, not really. We write notes for ourselves, because if we didn't, we would just be jabbering in circles, and we've learned that we can get off track pretty easily. So I like to do my notes in a certain way. Dom likes to do his notes in a certain way. But as I mentioned before, we always, without fail, will derail and go off of each other, I think, pretty seamlessly. And to follow up on what Dom said, there is a big reason why I asked him to do this show. He was my first thought. and I genuinely could not have thought of anybody else to do this endeavor with. So I am truly grateful every day that you are here, Dom. So thank you. And you're right. Being able to reconnect with one of the few bright spots of my limited engineering career was, I think, the best part of starting this show. But without further ado, because we have a metric shit ton to talk about today, and for those of you who could not tell, this show is rated M for mature. There's a lot of harsh language. Would you say that that's an accurate assessment, Dom?
I think a lot is a relative term, but the presence of some certain colorful or French language, depending on your preferred turn of phrase, is present in every episode. So be forewarned for all episodes past and future.
But also a lot of silliness, and of course, we want as many people to listen as possible. But unfortunately, I'm not going to take the time to censor my words. So if there are if there are parents out there whose kiddos are listening to the show with them, like Dom said, be forewarned. There are adult words in here. But if you watch hockey, I feel like you should be pretty used to some adult words.
Passion and emotion are part of the game. And how could we be truly speaking from a fan perspective if we were to cut that out and censor that out? It wouldn't be authentic, if I'm being honest. And those of you who are experienced hockey fans know this. Those of you who are new to the game, first of all, welcome. And thank you for joining us here and listening to our little podcast and helping it grow a little bit. And we hope it gives back to you. Don't worry, you'll get there soon enough where you'll be cursing right along with us right at the TV.
Truly. And that's the whole thing, is this show is from a fan perspective. I can only wish that I played the game. I hope one day to join a beer league and learn, but first I got to learn to skate. I think Dom, or was it Dom, or was it my other friend who was going to teach me how to skate? Was it you, Dom? You were going to teach me how to skate?
I mean, I wouldn't advise it. Like, I can skate backwards better than forwards, and it's still not great. I can teach you how to check, though, and how to do it questionably legally, how to get away with it. That's what I can teach you. That's something my dad taught me. Skating backwards, I can be more helpful, but I need to get my skating legs back under me. But, you know, a beer league would be fun for both of us. We should just get out there, skate together sometime, and find a league, or who knows, maybe we'll start one. It'll be the Captain Avalanche Fancast League down the line someday.
But the whole idea that I'm trying to say here as I watch Arturi Lehkonen fly into the boards, he looks like he's okay, my sweet Jesus, is that we are just fans of the game. And we wanted to create a show unlike other shows that are often, you know, former players, you know, executives, other people of that nature who have that, or insiders who have that closeness to the game. We don't necessarily have that. We're just like all of you out there who are sitting on our couches enjoying the game, but we wanted to be the people that helped explain what was going on, dive a little deeper, feel those emotions right along with you as we go through this 82 game season together of the teams that we enjoy. And I think that was the whole idea behind this show, was to not seem pretentious because we had played the game, which we haven't. We're just like all of you listening. That's why it's a part of the intro. So that's why we do the show the way that we do, and we're really trying to put a bigger emphasis on that, quote, fan perspective here. So our first segment here is titled aptly, The Preseason from a Fan Perspective. So in case you weren't aware, the preseason is stupid and sloppy and silly. Players are falling all over the place. Every game has about 20 penalties. There are gentlemen on the ice whose names you won't remember and you frankly may never see again. To be perfectly honest, the preseason is not something fans should spend too much energy perseverating on. That being said, the Avalanche are also undefeated in the preseason up to the point of this recording. Does this mean anything? Well, it means about as much as if the Avs were winless in the preseason. That's to say, don't put too much stock in those wins and losses. Points. Oh, God, I lost my points. No! There it is.
We're off to a great start, folks.
We're already losing.
We're knocking the rust off.
We're already losing
it. It's been a long off season.
This will happen a lot. So if you're new to this show, be prepared. This is how it always goes. Points aren't on the line, so players aren't giving their all. At least the veteran guys. The guys with that secured roster spot. However, that leads me into the point of the preseason for the Avs and for many other teams is the players who are giving their all in this preseason are those AHLers, the fringe players, and the young guns and rookies looking to make a name for themselves. For some teams, this is a lot more critical as they have a lot more opportunities for these young kids to step into a full-time roster spot. But Dom, I won't steal your spotlights too much and really narrow in on the Avs here because the teams I'm referring to before was, of course, the Sharks. But for the Avalanche, their defense is rounded out, so it's unlikely that anyone can step in there. However, it is important to get a look at players like Jack Ashawn, Sean Behrens, and Ron Attard. It's a fun spelling. So yeah, Ron Attard. And as a matter of fact, right now in this preseason game against the Knights that has what I am assuming to be close to be the opening night roster with Sam Girard's injury, who is anticipated to be ready opening night, which I never believe. The Avalanche always are overly optimistic on their injuries. Is that Ashawn has actually stepped in place of Girard, which I am a bit surprised that Ashawn was a choice rather than Behrens, who has also looked very good and has rehabbed incredibly well after, I believe, a knee injury that kept him out all out last season. But good for Ashawn to get that opportunity to step up. He is paired with Brent Burns, so talk about a dream pairing for, I think, a young defenseman right there. But moving forward from that, they could all be given that opportunity to step in should those injuries arrive, and knowing the Avalanche the last several seasons, they inevitably will, although we can cross our fingers that they won't. The most important spots for the Avs are that fourth line center, fourth line right wing, and the sudden backup goaltender spot. From my vantage point, all the chatter was that the fourth line center spot was young Russian forward Zakhar Bardakov's to lose. And based on, again, what we're seeing here tonight with Zakhar Bardakov being that fourth line center with the rest of the veteran squad, it seems all but certain that that is going to be the case come opening night against the Kings. The other real option I did see was fan favorite, name favorite, Ivan, named so nice, you had to say it twice. And certainly I would not have minded if he got another opportunity to step in as he did last year. However, Ivan was sent down to the Eagles in a transaction, and that all but told me who the Avs are ultimately deciding on. And another reason that may be the case is when a Russian athlete comes from the KHL, you need to use them or they could end up right back in Russia, and it can be difficult to get them back after that. Yarder. But Bardakov does have the ability to kill penalties, get down on the corners and dirty areas with a bit of a scoring touch, and reminds me of a slightly smaller Nikita Prishapov, although I may be corrected that he's a little bigger than I am realizing. Who, with Nikita Prishapov, I meant to say, I also hope he gets another opportunity this season. I really like how he plays. He just needs to actually get the puck in the net or get it to somebody who can get it in the net. In terms of that wing spot, I do genuinely think acquisition from the Blue Jackets, Gavin Brindley, is going to get that spot until Logan O'Connor is healthy. He has been healing from hip surgery, but he should only be out until late November, I believe was the case with that. And once again, with this lineup that they have right now, it looks like that is going to be the idea. Gavin Brindley is on that fourth line with Bardakov and Parker Kelly. And I mean, he's shown that he can connect with players on both the top and bottom six. He lit it up with Gabriel Landeskog at the DU game against the Mammoth, and he's been a noticeable presence even with limited minutes in every game he's been in or that he's been given an opportunity in. And he's shown it doesn't matter if he's with AHLers or NHLers. He has the skill set he has a skill set that he's ready to flex, and I think he's earned the opportunity, and his minutes would be, as I mentioned, limited in an actual game, so the risk is low, but he could be a pleasant breakout surprise after a struggle last season. He is undersized like Brad Marchand or Connor Bedard, but I have always believed, especially in today's NHL being more of a skill game, that size truly isn't everything. It serves its purpose for a particular player and play style, but it isn't a requirement to be successful in the NHL. Dom, what do you think? Is size everything, or is it the motion of the ocean?
Well, size certainly isn't everything, and that's a good thing because the NHL used to be honestly ugly with how physical it was. It was dangerous. It was dirty with the hits. Guys were getting concussed and knocked out. The game has become a much better game. And like you said, a lot of talent, a lot of speed, a lot of skill can make up for a lack of size. You listed Brad Marchand and Connor Bedard. I mean, Brad is one of the stars of the past decade, 2 decades, really, and Connor Bedard is looked to as a star of the future. So those are some great examples there. I mean, size isn't everything, but I do think one of the issues he might run into is if you're talking about fourth line minutes, those are the grinders. Those are the guys mucking it up in the dirty areas, in the corners, in the boards. It does get physical in there. Guys who are on that smaller side do need to try to work their way up the lineup. And I honestly think even though he has that all-around Swiss Army knife skill set, he's probably better off in a top 6 where he can move more freely, get him out into some open ice, because if he does get bogged down, it might be harder for him to, I mean, if he's accelerating at roughly the same pace as everyone else on a fourth line, if they're taller than him, they're going to cover more ice at the same pace, So little things like that. There are reasons, there are times and spaces where size matters, like you said. But again, this is the NHL. If you can play well, if you have the skill, all of these players are professionals and had to work so hard and beat out so many players just to make it here, just to even make it to the AHL. So he clearly has the ability, the talent to stay on the roster for a long term.
Certainly so. And I mean, sometimes with players like that, they've shown that they can get really crafty with how they play when you can't necessarily outmuscle an opponent. They can figure out other ways out of a situation. They can figure out other ways to get where they need to go on the ice. So I'm excited to see what he possibly can do here with that full-time NHL role, because I think he only had 1 game last year with the Jackets with very limited exposure, and he wasn't where he wanted to be. So he's really shown that I think he deserves that opportunity here in the preseason. And I mean, that's what the preseason is for. It's not for winning games or anything like that. It's for seeing who can step into the lineup here. And especially on a competitive Stanley Cup aspiring team like the Avs that has very limited spots to give, that can be major, especially because there are several options I think they could have gone with. So I'm glad that, first of all, a prospect is getting the opportunity to step in and not just another veteran guy that the Avs went and claimed off of waivers or signed on a PTO, but somebody that they also, acquired in a trade. So it shows that those assets were purposeful, that they went out and got Brindley for a reason. So I'm excited to see that. But another dark horse candidate who is no longer a candidate because he got sent down to the Eagles today, and I wrote this before that happened, but I'm still going to talk about him anyway, was Sharks acquisition Daniil Gushin, who was acquired in exchange for Oscar Olausson. He, has not lit the lamp as much as Brindley, but he has been tenacious as fuck. A serious fireball out there. He is a name that I'm always hearing for every preseason game that he played in, and that's what I'm personally always listening for. If I'm in the kitchen away from the screen or I'm having to listen to the radio for whatever reason, whose name am I hearing mentioned over and over again? And that's one that I've clued into. But knowing how this works, none of that is correct, and I have been I've been what the fuck? Yeah. Anyway,
here, I'll say it for you. You've been busy. Life happens. Yeah. You can't watch every game. You can't hear every game, especially during the preseason. You're human. I will be
watching every regular season game. I don't miss those. But yeah, a lot of life adjustments. But what I'm saying is I've been wrong plenty of times, so we'll watch with bated breath to see the opening night lineup against the Kings. But
really quickly, while you talk about
I'm done. I'm done.
Then I have a point for him because he is a former Shark, and the issue was the log jam in San Jose where he was not going to get that NHL ice time. It just wasn't going to happen. He hasn't done enough in, albeit limited opportunities, and he is a little bit undersized. So with the Sharks' deep prospect pool, which I can talk more about here a bit later, I do hope he gets more of an opportunity. I do hope he gets called up at some point. I hope he gets a look at like a second line play at some point if a guy just needs a night off for veteran rest. I know that's not always as common in the NHL, but he's the type of guy who could be electric. Yeah, well, it still happens. So he's that type of electric juice, the fireball, like you said, who can be very useful on a second line if he gets the opportunity. So not that I'm hoping for something to go wrong. So I hope, honestly, but I do hope he gets, I hope the best for all of the Avalanche, but I hope he also gets a chance to go to the NHL level, because that was a bit of his issue with San Jose and why they had to part ways.
Definitely. And I mean, the Avalanche have a lot more room in their prospect pool right now. So kids like Daniil Gushin are definitely welcome, especially if they can prove they have that upside. But Dom, I have yapped way longer than should be required for the Avalanche's preseason, and that was really just on a macro level. While it did inspire confidence, though, in a prospect pool that people said was non-existent, it does not carry nearly as much weight as it does for the boys in teal, where the future lies. The future is teal, everyone! Therefore, Dom, please, tell us what has been happening down in the tank. Who should we be looking out for? Who's going to carry the Sharks roster forward into the future?
Well, I mean, there's quite a few names and quite a lot of different names on the roster this season that I'll have to go into here. But as a quick preseason recap, something to say with the preseason, part of why it's hard to judge and part of why it doesn't matter is because depending night to night, sometimes you're going to be seeing your B team or a lot of your AHL roster going up against the other team's NHL roster or vice versa. So that's just something we got to say and put that asterisk on why it's really hard to judge from preseason. But like you said, Corey, it's really great for all the guys, especially the younger guys or the veterans on a PTO trying to stay in the league to have that opportunity to show what they got and earn a role in the NHL. And so just really quickly going through the games, our opening preseason game was against the much hated, at least in San Jose, the Vegas Golden Knights that the Avalanche are playing tonight. And in that game, the Sharks actually started a lot of guys that you would project to be in the hunt or on the opening night roster. And I don't think there's a name on the Golden Knights that I can really recognize for the most part. So other than someone like Keegan Colasar. So the 3-0 victory has to be taken a bit with a grain of salt. But what is important to take from that is Sam Dickinson had a great night. 2 assists on the night. The young defenseman, number 11 overall draft pick a year ago. He's someone that I expect, and I want to talk about more here in just a little bit, who I expect to be able to make the jump and be electric in the NHL. He's been really lighting it up all along the line as he's developed. Also good to see additions Skinner and Klingberg get on the board with goals in that game. On the board? Oh,
on the board.
We have so many messed up words on this podcast, y'all. You just gotta go with us along for the ride.
We can't talk, in case you're wondering. We don't know how to speak here on the. We run a podcast. We know how. We can't talk.
We know talk good.
No.
Unfortunately, after this first game, something else you said, Corey, was sloppy play and a lot of penalties. And that pretty much summarizes the second game the Sharks had against the Vegas Golden Knights, where they lost 2-1. And still not a ton of names, maybe a bit more that I recognize for Vegas, and a different set of guys who were competing for the roles for the Sharks. I feel like each of these games, you had about half to 60% of the starters and about 40% of guys who are ultimately going to end up in the AHL for the Sharks. And this one did not look nearly as good. So maybe it's line combinations, but Coach Warsofsky for the Sharks, he did not have anything good to say after the game. He looked very dejected with the reporters, just disappointed, really. The Sharks were terrible with puck possession, controlling the game, just really all the fundamentals. So for as much as the first game was a great start to the season in a sense, or the preseason, they came right back down to earth in the second game. Something I will say, though, that was a difference here is in the first game, new backup goaltender Nedeljkovic was really, really great, honestly. And it gave me some hope that this goaltending tandem is going to be a lot better this year for the Sharks. And in this second game against the Knights, it was the starter Askarov who was in, and he gave up 2 goals on 29 shots. So a totally respectable night. He's going to be great, and he's going to be our guy in net this season in the NHL. And there were a lot more high danger chances he had to face because of all the bad turnovers and such. So overall, I think his play actually was better, perhaps, than even his stat line was. Moving forward, they played against Anaheim just a couple nights ago, and it was a team actually primarily of AHL prospects that went up against the Ducks, what looks like their opening night roster. And they fared overall decently well. It was a 3-2 loss with 3 goals in quick succession in the second period, given up by not even the backup goaltender Nedeljkovic, nor the AHL goaltender Gabe Carrier. It was by Jakub Skarek, whose name is not one that I really knew prior to this preseason game. 25 years old from the Czech Republic and previously played during the regular season in a single game for the New York Islanders with a 3.94 GAA and an 872 save percentage. So one goalie having a bad 3 minutes. But overall, the Sharks B team and the guys competing went out there and played really, really well against what projects to be the Ducks opening night roster for a Ducks team that I expect to be making the next step this year. So that was a good vote of confidence, a good something that I wanted to see from the team. Good to see those guys going out there and competing, because with so many young talents on the Sharks roster and going to be in the AHL, it's highly competitive and it's forcing everybody to raise the level. They're finishing up their second game against Anaheim. We're adding all the messed up words. Anaheim tonight, and it's currently 0-0 after the first period. The Sharks playing some more of their starters. But as far as some of the names to know, Sharks made a lot of additions, so I'm just going to rattle some names off. You may have heard of the name Ryan Reeves, an old school enforcer who's maybe softened up a little bit, but his presence on the ice, he doesn't fight as much as he used to, but also he doesn't have to. The other team knows he's there and he'll drop the gloves if he needs to. So better not just pick a fight that you don't want to have. So having him on the roster, while he might not play every game or play a ton of minutes, he's there to protect all these young guys, and that's going to be a great thing for the Sharks. More important additions to the offensive side are Philip Kurashev, Jeff Skinner, and Adam Gaudette. Each of these players have shown potential, have been able to fluctuate between lines anywhere from the second to the fourth line, and have had some down seasons recently and are trying to come to the Sharks, take this opportunity to revive their career, maybe be flipped at the trade deadline, or maybe be part of the long-term plan for the Sharks moving forward. Also, some additions on the defensive side. On the blue line are John Klingberg, Nick Leddy, Dmitry Orlov, and then, of course, I mentioned in net Alex Nedeljkovic. And I really want to quickly say something about Ned, because I think we actually have a legitimate goaltending tandem in San Jose now. We don't want Nedeljkovic to start a bunch of games, but can this guy start 25 games and win half of them, or like a third of them? I think so. I actually don't feel terrible.
Can he win a game?
I think he can.
I think singular game. Just one.
I mean, a game would still be pretty good compared to what the Sharks have dealt with in past years, but Askarov is going to be the man in net, and he can't play every night, though. So I feel like this is a guy who is also looking to have a bit of a bounce back year, show he's still got it, which means he can play for a little bit cheaper. He could be a long-term solution to be that backup, to play that, like I said, 25, 30 games a season. So I liked what I've seen from him thus far in the preseason. What's really important about the defenseman I listed, and then I'll get off my soapbox here, is there is a logjam, a bit of a logjam at defense for the Sharks, because all of these guys, apart from Dmitry Orlov, are all in the final year of their contracts, or a contract year. So they are only signed through the end of this season. So you have a bunch of veteran defensemen trying to revive their careers, find a long-term role either with this team or get traded to a contender. And so the question is who's going to be able to stick around over the course of the season? Because you've got Ferraro, Liljegren, Klingberg, Leddy, and Dmitry Orlov, as well as Vinny Desharnais. And then some of the younger guys for the Sharks, you have Mook Madulin, Jack Thompson, and you're still looking to see Cagnoni. You've got Lucas Carlson in the AHL, and Dickinson is the big one that I expect to make a jump this year. I think he's going to make a push for the roster, might be on the opening night roster. You're already carrying 7 defensemen, and you have like 2 or 3 in the AHL who could be arguably deserving of a spot. Like Mook Madulin is probably your 7th defenseman right now, and I think he should 100% be on the opening night roster. But that's not counting Dickinson. That's not counting Cagnoni, who's probably going to start in the AHL this year. He probably has another year before he's a full-time NHLer. But how about Jack Thompson? he seems to be the bit of the odd man out and would need to force out one of those veteran defensemen, not even mentioning Dickinson as well, who's clearly ahead of him. But Thompson plays on the right-hand side. The Sharks have a lot of left-handed defensemen, so as part of having that balance, he's not competing in that same lefty logjam. So maybe he's able to push his way onto the roster, but you have 9 guys who have a reasonable chance to make the NHL roster or have a case to be playing as a defenseman, but only 3 pairings and maybe a 7th guy. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. I think Dickinson, like I said, should push for a roster spot. Cagnoni and Jack Thompson will probably start in the AHL this year, though, from what I've seen.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, go for it, Corey.
Spell Mook, Medulin, and Cagnoni.
Mukhmadulin, Mukhmahdullin, and Cagnoni is Cagnoni. I'm 90% confident I got those right.
Are you looking at your notes, or did you like actually pull that off the dome?
I was looking at my notes, and I can already confirm I spelled Mukhmadulin wrong, though, in my notes.
Wait, you spelled it wrong saying it, or you spelled it wrong in your notes?
No, I spelled it wrong in my notes. I flipped the H and the K. It's M-U-K-H, not M-U-H-K. So, but to be fair, when I wrote my notes, I wrote those from memory. So I've seen his name enough. I've said his name a lot last semester. Jesus, what am I in school? God, what is happening?
Oh my God.
Last season. We need help, man. We need help. No, but this is the thing. There's so many names. I'm doing my best to keep them all straight, and I'm trying. I can only list the ones that I think have a legitimate shot because there's so many prospects in San Jose. I didn't even get into the offensive prospects that I probably still need to talk about at some point tonight. But like I said, I think I need to get off my soapbox here, and maybe some of my predictions for the year, I'll cover some of those other prospects.
Yes. Well, couple follow-ups. I definitely learned from last year because I listened and I wrote down what I wanted to say instead of just trying to remember it or just screaming and interrupting you. I'll still interrupt you, and you should still interrupt me, but I didn't want to interrupt your flow. You were kind of in flow state there. But for one thing, you reminded me that I realized I wrote about a backup goaltender spot in my preseason preview, and I just didn't say anything about it. So I just like to say that to start the season, Scott Wedgwood will be the Avalanche's #1 goaltender, which is fine. He did actually just as well, if not better, than Mackenzie Blackwood last year. He was fantastic. So he'll have to step in because Mackenzie Blackwood is injured at this current moment in time, but is not expected to be out long term. Just seems like something happened here in the beginning, which seems to be the case for a lot of people at the start of the year here. There are a ton of injuries going into the season all across the league. Every time I open Instagram or the NHL app, it just seems like there's another injury that somebody is going through on a team, and it's like 6 to 8 weeks. It's brutal. That's besides the point. The point is that young Trent Miner is going to most likely be the backup goaltender for the Avalanche until Mackenzie Blackwood is healed. And for all intents and purposes, he's looked great. And that's really what I want to say is regardless of if he's been playing an A or B squad, he's been great. So he inspires confidence in me. He was really great for the Eagles last year, especially during their Calder Cup run. So all the faith in him. Next in regards to goaltenders was, regardless of if Alex Nedeljkovic is able to win a single game for the Sharks, did you see his helmet? It was cool as hell.
Yeah, I did. I'm pretty sure I have it like in my Instagram on like my saved
cool.
likes folder.
Yeah, that thing was awesome.
I don't know, man. I think it's just part of being with the Sharks, but ever since Nabby with Nabokov, like every other goaltender, almost everyone, I shouldn't say every single one, but there have been some pretty sweet helmets. Like maybe I'm a little bit more numb to it than everyone else, and even I thought it was sick because I've gotten used to seeing them. I'm a little spoiled on the goalie helmets, y'all. Like they are always so cool out in San Jose with the blacks, the teals on there. It's just the shading. If you haven't seen it before, just look up some goalie helmets. Look across all of your favorites around the league because there's a lot of good ones these days. They're getting more and more creative every year.
Yeah, and in tandem with those new throwback uniforms that the Sharks unveiled, which were also nice. I did like them. I did like them very much.
Yeah, that anniversary, they call it the Heritage 2.0. They said that there's like it was I call it a pleasant surprise and a nostalgic return to watching. Like, I didn't watch in the 90s, I wasn't alive, but watching those games in the 2000s, some of my core memories. But the celebratory center ice logo and everything, I'm very happy about it. I love those jerseys, so I will be certainly getting one at some point this year.
Which makes me think, where are the Nordiques jerseys, the Avs? Where are they? I want them. Where are they? Everybody knows they exist. Reveal them. We don't know where they are right now. Final thought on Nedeljkovic. He'll probably win at least 2 games because he is not Alexander Georgiev. I love you, Georgie. I hope you succeed in Buffalo. I really do. That is not sarcasm. I really do hope so.
We hope he succeeds in Buffalo. I saw something about how he was the most wins in his conference for like 2 consecutive years.
He did,
and we are only like a year removed from that, which is crazy to think just how bad last year was, that it felt like an eternity when just the 2 years prior, he was literally leading the NHL in wins. Insane. I hope the best for him. I hope it gets better. Unfortunately, I think it's a match made in hell because it's Buffalo, and HE double hockey sticks. They're just always going to suffer because they are the New York Jets of the NHL, and apparently one team from New York, when there's always 3 teams, must be cursed to suffer.
That is highly unfortunate. Real quick last thought here so we can move on was just your talk of sloppiness and Warsawski's disappointment. It is sloppy all over. Even watching this Avalanche veteran squad against a Golden Knights veteran squad, it's rough. It does not look great. I mean, the passing is off. People are falling over continuously. There's friendly fire, so don't feel too bad. Don't feel too bad if your team looks like that, because it's kind of everybody right now. There was 150 penalty minutes in the Senators Canadiens game last night in a preseason game. That is so unbelievably unnecessary, but just know that it could always be worse, and that's why it's the preseason, so it's okay. But we will not.
And it's there to get them up to speed. That everybody's going to have the rust, so that's why all your star players play. And I know some people would be concerned of them risking injury, but they still have that same injury risk during the regular season. At least now they're not risking playing horribly in front of all the fans.
Exactly. Well, everybody, this, I think everyone can agree, was the longest offseason in NHL history. Was it actually? I don't know, but everybody will tell you, including me and Dom, that it sure as hell felt like it. Feels like we were never going to get back to the point where hockey was going to be on TV again. So thank the Lord we are 6 days away from puck drop on the start of a new season. But that leads me to the fact of why you're probably all here, and that is for our season predictions. You want to hear the well-educated, well-informed predictions that Dom and I have put together. And these predictions are so unbelievably serious. You should take every single one of them as seriously as possible and as irrefutable fact. These should live in your head rent-free. You should think about them always. And these should be the only predictions that you know are correct. Everybody else is wrong. We are right. But for me, I prepared 6 predictions. I have 3 NHL flavored ones and 3 Avalanche flavored ones. Dom, how did you do it?
So I figured you would cover some Avalanche, some NHL. I think for my NHL predictions, I might handle that more under my rankings of the teams, my preseason rankings there. But I do have a couple of predictions for the Sharks, some individual player predictions this season, some stats and some things in that realm that I'd be happy to share as well. But you go ahead, take the lead here. Your 6 predictions.
How many do you have? I want to know how we should toss this off. We figure shit out on the fly here on the Captain Avalanche Fancast.
Let's see. I have, let's call it 4 predictions here that are
Okay.
not overly groundbreaking, but are all specific to the Sharks. I do have some fun predictions for playoff teams potentially that I can
also have a
throw in as well.
I also have a playoff team prediction. Okay, well, let's just do that one straight away. I'll say mine, and then you say yours, and lo and behold, it'll be the exact same thing. My prediction, and we can explore these teams a little bit more in the division rankings, as Dom said, but my prediction was that there will be new playoff teams this year, specifically the Ducks and the Mammoth. I'm bought in. I think they're gonna do it. Maybe. Yes, I said it, so therefore it is true.
Well, one thing I agree with you on, and it pains me so much, but even though the Sharks B team was able to take it to the Ducks a couple nights ago, I think this Ducks team is going to be good. I don't think they're just going to make it into the playoffs. I have them as either the 2 or the 3 seed. LA doesn't have to worry about Edmonton because LA ain't even making the playoffs, y'all. That's a bold prediction for you. But they're old. They're washed. That is what I'm calling on LA. That last year I was so bought in that they would finally get past Edmonton. And this is a rival team, y'all. I'm done with LA. Insert Anaheim to be there as the 3 seed in the Pacific. Utah, I don't know if it counts as a new team, but I think Utah and Vancouver are going to go down to the wire for who's going to be the 8 seed in the West. But no, my other new team that I have locked in, give me Columbus to be the 3 seed out of the Metropolitan and draw New Jersey in a first round matchup in the playoffs this upcoming season.
Fun. All right. Well, okay, this will be fun to explore in our division rankings. I was going to say I'll save the discussion for that. But my first Avalanche flavored prediction, and Dom can quote me that I talked about this all the way last year after the season ended, was that Nathan MacKinnon, and I wrote it this way, Nathan MacKinnon goes apeshit and scores 150 points on a revenge tour. It could happen. He made it to 140. Most points by an Avalanche player in a single season. Who says he doesn't score 150? And I'm saying that he has so much rage built inside of him after the playoff exit last year and all the circumstances that surrounded it, that he is coming in so juiced, so gassed, that he will truly be an unrelenting force on the ice and just absolutely cook up an insane season for not only Avs history, but hockey history. He finally takes home his first fucking Art Ross trophy that he's been second place on for several years. That is my first Avalanche flavored prediction. Thoughts, Tom?
Honestly, I think it's not just possible. I feel like it's probable. I don't know about 150. That's in bold prediction territory. But does he repeat and cross 130? I think that I would smash that bet personally. I think that's totally not only possible, but we've seen what Nathan can do. The man, when he is pissed, plays better than any player in the world. I don't care. We don't have to get into the debate of who the best player in the world is. I can just say without a shadow of a doubt, when he's pissed, he's the best player in the world.
It's Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar, depending on the night. Anyway, I did you hear something? I didn't hear anything. I feel like I was going to say something else, but I don't remember. Next NHL flavored prediction. The Florida Panthers will either... Oh, I remember what I was going to say. It was come to us for all your sports betting needs. I don't sports bet myself, but if you need some advice, I definitely got you covered.
If you want advice on how to lose money on hockey games, listen here, guys.
How to win money. Dom misspoke. Win money.
Okay. Wait, how about this? Because based on the number of predictions, can I insert one of my Sharks predictions?
Please.
All right. After consecutively finishing last in the NHL, consecutive seasons with in order 47 and 52 points respectively. Sharks are making a jump this year, folks. I'm saying the Sharks finish the year with 65 plus points and 25 plus wins on the season. And yes, I'm a homer, but I feel like this is totally and realistically possible in today's NHL.
So I respect the prediction, and I might have something similar, but like, I need you to say that shit with your whole ass chest. How many points are the Sharks going to get?
65 plus points and 25 plus wins. You know what? I'm feeling ambitious. Let's go for 70 points and 30 wins. Let's just do it. The Sharks are going to do it. They're so back, y'all. They're not finishing last in the division, the conference, the NHL anymore. They are here. They are ready to make that jump. They're going to go to where Anaheim was last year, and then next year they'll be in the playoffs, just like I project Anaheim to be.
All right. Well, I'm going to save my Sharks predictions because, of course, you know, to honor you, I did have to do a Sharks prediction, but I had to talk about I had to cover the defending two-time Stanley Cup champions here, and that's the Florida Panthers will either lose in the finals or will be eliminated in the first round, and there is no in between. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. There is no they make it another decent run and are eliminated. No. It is either they go all the way for the fourth consecutive year, or they get absolutely tossed in the first round. They get their salad absolutely tossed. So that is my prediction for that. Who they lose to? Well, you know, I have a thought, but I'll save the homerism for later. Not homoeroticism, but homerism. We've lost Dom, everyone. This is now becoming a solo
I'm sorry.
episode.
I was waiting for you to come in with your next Avs prediction. So really quickly, yeah, I agree. Florida's got a lot of mileage. I don't even think it's an or. I do think they're going to get their doors blown off in the first round of the playoffs. They've been close the last couple of seasons. They've looked a little rough in the first round and then just gotten it together for the rest. So I think whoever they play in the East, and we'll talk about what our predictions are later, it's either you beat Florida in the first round or you don't beat them at all. And that's my opinion.
Yeah. And I do think, nope, I'll save that. I was going to talk about Barkov and Kachuk and everything, but I'll save that. I'll save that for division. I'll save that for the division, which is up next. So for everybody waiting with bated breath and in heavy anticipation, it is coming. So just give us a second here. Dom, do you want me to hit another Avs prediction here, and then you got another one? Or do you want to hit
you
one?
hit an Avs prediction,
okay.
And then I'll hit a Sharks one.
So this one revolves around the Avalanche's other best player, and that is Cale Makar. And I believe this is the year that he finally hits the 100-point plateau. After a 30-goal performance last year, only done by 9 other defensemen in NHL history, Cale Makar is finally going to join the Century Club with defensemen. Without a doubt, this is the year. I mean, 92 points last year. Every year he somehow just seemingly gets better at what he does. Cale Makar is truly a freak of nature. He is a one of one. The Avalanche are so incredibly lucky to have him. When it's time for him to sign his extension, they're going to hand him a blank check and say, write whatever fucking number you want, and they're going to pay him that because I don't care. So yeah, 100-point season, Cale Makar. Best defenseman in the world.
And when the Avalanche finally drop those Nordiques jerseys that you and I are both waiting for, you know I will be buying a Cale Makar one because I cannot miss that opportunity. The dude is unreal as a talent. All respect to him. And honestly, 250 points from McKinnon and Cale does not sound crazy. It sounds like a big number, but for the two of them to do that combined actually feels really realistic.
Yeah, doesn't actually feel like that. That feels video game, and yet when you watch them play, if this is your first year watching hockey, I kind of envy you because you get to experience the glory and the grace of some of the best players in the world for the very first time. And I mean, it's true. They truly are two of the best players in the world. They are unlike anybody else. So yeah, it'll be great. And yeah, you're right. I'm very excited. Really riveting analysis there with all my yas. and filler words. But you got another prediction here, Dom. So what do you got for us?
So that gave me an idea, and I'm just going to kind of merge two of mine together. And I'm going to say Celebrini and Will Smith, which quick backtrack, I forgot to say as part of the season preview. Will Smith playing on the wing, y'all. That's the plan this year. Second half of last season, final 41 games, he scored 32 points and was pretty much level on that point scoring pace with Celebrini for that half of the season. So the two of them playing on the same line together, give me Celebrini plus Will Smith combined for over 160 points this year, 90 plus points for Celebrini, 70 plus for Will Smith. It is the Will Smith breakout year with 25 plus goals after posting 18 goals and 45 total points in 74 games last year.
Well, damn! I'm back here. Well, damn. That is, I think, quite the prediction, but not an unrealistic one. I do see Celebrini really leading this team into the future. And I mean, I was very high on him last year. I will continue to be that way. This kid is good. And he is, I think, the second coming of Sidney Crosby. He has the makings of that kind of game. I think he's going to be an excellent leader for this team in the future. And he has the right kind of behaviors on both ends of the ice and on both sides of the puck. Whenever he doesn't have the puck, he's doing the right things. And when he does have the puck, he's doing shit that'll wow you. So I love that optimism from you. And I hope it's true. And I really do think Celebrini is going to be one of the league's top players here in the next 5 years or so. He's going to be the one in those top 50 players right now lists, and he'll probably be close to the top, if not on the top at some point.
I mean, here's to hoping. Love the comparisons to Crosby. And I do have to say, it is a little easy to combine those two. If they're playing on the same line, I can double down on the points. But I don't know, man. Will Smith was really good, and he's flying under the radar. And I still think that it's going to be beneficial for him. So no matter how much of a jump I expect Will Smith to make, I expect Celebrini to just be that little bit further too on his points per year. So I'm like 90 plus, 70 plus. It sounds ambitious, but I think I mean, I know, like, I will admit, guys, I am a homer for this Sharks team, but I really see the potential. The sleepover line is real. Like, we got to capitalize before Toffoli retires here in a couple of years. Like, this is the time for them to pop off. This is the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who didn't see, go check out the Sharks social media page. They made a whole cartoon animation about the sleepover line where Tyler Toffoli reads Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith a bedtime story, and it's so unbelievably funny. So please go watch that. And for those of you who are maybe new, to give you like the fastest rundown of all time of what the fuck we're talking about. Also, Will Smith is not Jada Pinkett Smith's husband. We are talking about the Fresh Prince of San Jose, Will Smith, winger and center for winger and center for the San Jose Sharks. He is a young kid, so definitely not the same guy. But the sleepover line, basically the lore goes that Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith, again, both young rookies in the NHL, told Tyler Toffoli, who was basically their on-ice father, that if they all got, what was it, a point or a goal? Dom, please enlighten me.
It was all, if they all got a goal, and I believe it was the game in Buffalo when they were on the road.
If they all got a goal, that Toffoli would come over and spend the night in Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini's hotel room. Well, lo and behold, they each got a goal, and I think Toffoli topped it off with an empty netter. And then Macklin and Will Smith were freaking out where they said, sleepover, sleepover, to which he was reminded that that was something that he promised to do. And he didn't want to do it, but I believe his wife was the one who told him, you gotta keep your promise, bro. You gotta go and do it. And so he did it, and my God, it is why hockey is the greatest sport ever, because that story is so unbelievably funny. And that is why the vibes are always high in San Jose, despite finishing literally last place. So, yeah.
The future is teal, and I think the future is sooner than most people think. But the story can be better told than we are telling it now. seriously, go to the Sharks Instagram. You can see the interview of Toffoli's wife telling the story herself. She tells it better than I think I ever could.
Agreed. It's very funny. Also, before we jump into another prediction here, if you didn't notice, we got Dom a better microphone this year. So if you're a fan from last season, the audio quality has increased immensely. So say thank you to our good friend Julian. Shout out Julian for hooking up Dom with a better microphone. So thank you, Julian. Anyway, shout out Julian. Next prediction here is my Sharks related one here, and I know Dom already sees it because I see him in my Google Doc here. And I've been thinking this since last year, and that is the Sharks will sniff the playoffs. Will they make the playoffs? Absolutely the fuck not. But I think they will, for a fleeting moment, be a bubble team. And there will be just the briefest glimpse in people's minds as they get off to a nice hot start that is not 0-10, but a nice crispy 5-4. That people will be like, oh, maybe, just maybe. And then as the season goes on, they'll fall back to reality. But there will be a moment where there could be a fleeting possibility that the Sharks make the playoffs.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I'm just getting flashbacks to what Calgary did this past season, that where nobody saw that coming, and the goaltending is what kept them in it. I think the Sharks offense is going to be a lot more electric, and so it makes it feel almost that much more possible, even if we're not going to have some crazy rookie goaltending, because obviously we don't have a rookie goaltender.
And that's the whole thing, right? Is you can get better without necessarily going up in the standings. You know what I mean? You can score more goals. You can defend better. You can lose by less. So for people who think that you can only get better by improving in the standings, this is not true. Your team can get better by improving their performance on the ice, even if they are still losing. And I am very afraid of the San Jose team going into the future because they are going to score a lot of goals. A lot of goals. That was a high stick.
For context for everyone listening, the worst team in the entire Eastern Conference was a tie between the Boston Bruins and the Philadelphia Flyers last year. Both teams were 33, 39, and 10 with 76 points. The Sharks, as the worst team in the Western Conference, were 20, 50, and 12 with 52 points. So they can jump up and win 10 more games, cross that 30-win threshold that I'm rooting for manifesting into existence, and would still be right there at the bottom of the NHL on an average year. And I think that's something we'll see this year, is that I think the bottom of the NHL is going to just raise. And you're not going to see these teams make big moves, but with the Blackhawks getting better, I think the Predators will at least be a little bit better next year. I just think the bottom, like, they're not going to be great. Maybe they're about the same at 68 points that they had last year, like a 30-win team. But that might be the bottom instead of 52 points with a whole 10 less wins. I just think the bottom of the NHL is going to be a little bit better, and I think that's just going to mean more competitive hockey all season long, which makes us all, as fans, winners.
Exactly. Well, did you have any other predictions?
Oh, sure. And I kind of hinted at this one. The last one I'll say is Sam Dickinson. This kid is legit. He is a star. He's going to force his way onto this NHL roster. I've already made some point predictions and goal predictions, but put me down for Sam Dickinson gets 10 goals on the year as a minimum as a defenseman. I think he's good. It's going to take some time to get to full speed, but he's going to be that next offensive defenseman star that we're talking about.
And for those of you who are maybe uninitiated, 10 goals for a defenseman is a lot. Even an offensive defenseman, that is a lot. Like, it cannot be undersold, first of all, how big 30 goals for a defenseman was with Cale Makar. 30 goals for a forward is a good year. But for a defenseman, that is insane. So 10 goals from a rookie defenseman would be absolutely astronomical. So that That really is, I think, the most unrealistic prediction you've said the entire time.
You know, and it might not end up being goals. They might get tipped in front, but the kid is for real. He has a great shot. A lot of pace on that shot. Great vision, picking his points. I haven't seen that type of offensive play from the Sharks blue line since Carlson back when he was good in 2016.
So yeah, I'm excited. I was going to ask you about him, but I didn't need to because you took care of that for me. Final Avalanche prediction here, nice and simple, is that the Avalanche will not be shut out by the Winnipeg Jets, who shut them out, I believe, twice last year. So that will not happen. They will score on Connor Hellebuck. I believe it.
It's going to happen. It's got to happen. I believe it too.
So that's my silly last prediction. Any other predictions from you, Dom?
Let me see here. Did I write down any other predictions? I don't have any other predictions, but another piece of great news that I skipped over earlier. I mentioned it last season for those of you who listened, but the arena deal with the city of San Jose is official. The Sharks are staying until at least 2051, with renovations planned here in the next 5 to 10 years to just make the already modern SAP Center even better. So exciting news, not a prediction, just something exciting from the land of teal.
That is worth sharing, and that is very exciting. Oh yeah, here's a fun random prediction for you. The Edmonton Oilers will be sacrificed to an ancient volcano god. Anyway.
Amen.
Now it's time for the other thing that you've all been waiting for, unless Dom has anything else to share before I say this very dramatically like I always do.
No, I'm ready for the drama.
All right. Division rankings. For those of you wondering, Dom does not, in fact, hear the reverb or any of the sound effects. That is all done in post. So that is for your own personal enjoyment. Dom just gets to hear me yelling into my microphone. So I'm sure that's always been very fun for him.
I actually enjoy it. Part of the fun for me is I hear it and I know you're saying something and I can hear the different ways you modify your voice. And then going back and listening to the episode to see where are some things I could clean up. I also get to hear what you've added in. So I can hear it both ways and I can be like, oh yeah, that's when he was saying that. So for me, I actually get plenty of joy out of it too.
So there you go, everybody. But division rankings are fantastically hard because I already know that most likely everything we lay out here is going to be mostly, if not totally, wrong, which runs counter to the incredible confidence I was spouting earlier. But in the silly world of hockey reality, we never truly know how a season is going to go because we only have last season to build off of. It can give us a good idea and help us make educated guesses, but hockey and sports in general are notoriously unpredictable, and that's what makes them so fun to watch and why we engage ourselves in those communities. One problem I ran into, though, while trying to organize these was every team sought to get better. Everyone on the bottom wants to take that next step. Everyone wants to escape the basement or the mushy middle, move up from being a bubble team and make the playoffs. Some teams certainly made it more convincing with their offseason efforts, and some not so much. The point is, everyone wants to get better, but someone always has to be at the bottom. Someone always has to be at the top. Some teams should make the playoffs, but they miss out due to a brutal tiebreaker. Dom was talking about the Flames. The Flames missed the playoffs by 0 points. They didn't get in because of a tiebreaker with the Blues. And so, to keep my notes here from being 20 pages long, I didn't physically write down a thought for every team, but we will share some thoughts on some, I think. And I am simply relying on the old dome to carry me through, but I did try to rely on historical data, injuries, offseason moves, and drafting. And in reality, I have no idea what I'm talking about, and this is really some spaghetti on the wall type shit, but we're going to try our best. So, Dom, I guess we'll leave the Central for last. I think rightfully so. But also for those who didn't see our Everything You Need to Know to Watch Your First Hockey Game video or listen to that episode, there are 4 divisions in the NHL: the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Metropolitan, and the Central, and 2 conferences: the Eastern Conference, which hosts the Atlantic and Metropolitan, and the Western Conference, which hosts the Pacific and the Central Division. Each division has 8 teams, not 18, 8 teams. And instead of doing a 1 to 32 power rankings, I've seen a lot of people do these divisional rankings, which I thought was a little easier and a bit more fun because it can get really spicy. Because boy, oh boy, my predictions were just kind of goofy and fun. I do believe in most of them, but like, I'm going to make some people unhappy with my divisional predictions, I think, Dom.
Let's have some fun. And you said that you did some historical data, injuries, offseason moves, and drafting. I went from the old gut and saying whatever I think is right is going to be wrong. You said throw some spaghetti on the wall. I said I'm going to throw it into a wormhole and it'll get spaghettified, and we'll see whatever happens if it happens. Yep. So we're right there together. We're gonna be entirely right and entirely wrong simultaneously. It's gonna be the quintessential paradox. But I say let's start with the Eastern Conference, and that way we could possibly preview some of the playoff matchups we might want to do. Still have the Sharks and Avs safe for the latter half, and get really excited with our bold predictions that we both are talking totally from the heart with complete professionalism and no bias whatsoever.
Yep, no bias here. No, I mean there's always going to be bias, and anybody I did mean to actually put this in. Is that anybody who says that any of the rankings are made without bias is fucking lying to you. There is always bias, no matter the analyst, the presenter, it does not matter. Everybody has teams that they like. And of course, there was a little bit of bias in my rankings as well. But I mean, I have less bias in some respects, but I do still have bias in every conference. There are teams that I like, teams that I hate, but I do try to be somewhat objective in these picks. And you know, some of these I think it'd be fun if this is how it shook out, but I did genuinely give it thought like, okay, this is truly how I feel like it's going to shake out. But it also wouldn't surprise me if it didn't end up this way at all, is what I'm saying. So I'm tempering my expectations, but we're all just here to have fun.
And really quickly, while you're talking about bias, sorry to interrupt you there at the end. No. I think it doesn't even matter about teams specifically. You could have bias for a conference. Like there's debates or even for a division about which division is the toughest. Is it the Atlantic? Is it the Central? The Pacific in a couple of years is going to have some argument for that. You know, there's bias for that based on region. Are you West Coast versus East Coast? What games do you see? Because the West Coast games air and start at 7:30 at night, and nobody on the East Coast is awake and watching that regular season game. Or how about style of play? For those of you who've listened, you should know by now that I like those physical teams. I like defense. Give me a low-scoring, grinded-out game that goes to double overtime and one team wins 2-1 over the other. Let's get the penalty minutes up and have a physical bout. Like let's turn this as much into the WWE as possible, except for, real play instead of a fake scripted thing, because we don't do that in hockey. But you get my point. My bias is towards physicality, even if it's not for any one team. So no matter what, even if we don't think we have any bias, we all have some inherent bias underneath the scenes, even if we're not aware of it.
Very well said, Dom. Well, let's start with the Atlantic Division. This personally for me was the hardest one to rank because there are 5 teams in this division that I think could all and may all reasonably make the playoffs. And it has teams that are really good, that are looking to improve. Of course, it plays host to the defending Stanley Cup champions. So, I mean, there's a lot, I think, of expectation coming out of the Atlantic Division. So this was not an easy ranking for me. And I think this is the one that may ruffle some feathers. So I think I'll share my rankings. I think we can talk about it. Then we can do yours, and then we'll talk about those, and then just keep kind of bouncing back and forth from there. Sound good?
Yeah, if we have something the same, we can just say, oh, there's something the same there as well. But I'm
Okay.
with you. I'll follow along with you as you.
Nah, you know what? Let's
you
just
wanna
keep it.
pick
Let's just keep it a total mystery. Let's keep the back. Damn, that's a boomer. Sorry, the Golden Knights just scored. What a bimmer. But let's just keep it a total secret. I'll share top to bottom. We'll only discuss that person's rankings, and then the next person can share, and then we'll only discuss those rankings, and then maybe we could do some compare and contrast if we want to. But all right, enough of that. Enough. Atlantic. At number 8, I have the Buffalo Sabres. At number 7, I have the Boston Bruins. At number 6, I have the Detroit Red Wings. At number 5, I have the Florida Panthers. At number At number 4, I have the Ottawa Senators. At number 3, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. At number 2, I have the Montreal Canadiens. And at number 1, winning the division, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I'll start off with why I think the Lightning will win the division. And that is mostly because from what I've seen, their team has the fewest amount of injuries and consistently has a well-balanced and high-scoring team. I think they were number 1 in goals per game last year, and they always have Andrei Vasilevsky, who is a consistent stud in net. So I don't really see any reason why the Lightning would necessarily do poorly in this division. As for the Canadiens, I don't think they'll win the division because they are still young and gaining that experience, but I do think that they are at the point that they are ready to take that next step. My biggest question marks for them are still in net and the defensive side of the puck. They have a bunch of great defensemen. However, I'm unsure if they can actually overall defend to the amount that they need to. They will help score and play drive a lot, but I'm not sure if they can actually do what they need to do defensively. But we'll see. But I do believe in this team, and I really like the Canadiens. So I do think they are going to take a sizable step this next year. At the very least, I think they will make the playoffs again, and they'll do a little better than they did last year, which is what I hope for. Maple Leafs, they lost a 100-point scorer and really didn't get anything to replace it, but I do believe they're a more well-rounded team, but I don't know if that will translate to more wins. But again, more well-rounded, but they did lose that scoring. But they did just lock up Anthony Stolarz to an absolute steal of a deal, and he was fantastic for them last year. So they're very secure in that regard. Their defense is, I think, one of the best in the East. So it wouldn't surprise me if they also ended up taking second or even first. But for now, I have the Maple Leafs at 3. The Senators are like the younger brother of the Florida Panthers. They play pretty much the exact same game in the exact same division, and they also have a Tkachuk brother. So there you go for them. I think they're, again, I don't watch every team all the time, so this is just me spouting the shit that I know. Panthers, they don't have their captain, and Tkachuk is injured. And I think knowing what I know about losing your team captain, that can have a massive impact on your ability to play. I do think I'm ranking them too low, but the problem is every other team is good in that division, so I don't know what to do. But I think they'll still make the playoffs. So I don't know who's going to have to miss here in order for this to happen. But that's just what I said, because I believe in those other teams. The Red Wings, I think, are just forever stuck in Midland, unfortunately. The Bruins are in rebuild mode, and the Sabres are the Sabres. Not much else to say there. But Dom, thoughts on my rankings?
Well, yeah, I think any of the top 5 teams, I think any or all of them in the Atlantic.
Actually, you know what? That's stupid. Let's pause. Let's pause. It makes more sense for you to share your rankings, and then we'll just talk about it on the whole. Let's just do that. We'll share our rankings, right, talk about them ourselves, and then we'll talk about them on the whole. All right, Tom, what are your Atlantic Division rankings?
So I'm just going to start with 6, 7, 8. And
All right.
that's the not sniffing the playoffs and not going to be part of this Atlantic debate. They're going to win some games and make it tougher on the other teams. And I have them in the same order. Detroit Red Wings at 6, Boston Bruins at 7, and the Buffalo Sabres doing what Buffalo does down in 8th. And honorable mention, Buffalo finishes with the worst record in the NHL this year, or should I say dishonorable mention? I don't know the difference anymore for Buffalo. They're getting talked about at all. That's an honor in of itself. Now, where you and I go a little bit differently is I'm going to jump to the top, and we actually swap these teams. I put Florida at number 1, and I did not take the injuries into account, and I'm just paying respect to the fact that they have gone to 3 consecutive finals, 2 consecutive championship victories, hoisting the Stanley Cup. And I don't think they finished first in the Atlantic any time in any of those. And so for some reason, I feel like they're going to finish first this year and then fall flat on their face in the playoffs. There's no rhyme or reason to it other than I think it's going to happen. Tampa Bay, on the other hand, I have in 5th because honestly, I was disappointed by their play in the playoffs. I think they're good enough to be a playoff team, but I think they're on the back 9 and are going to be heading towards a rebuild soon. Vasilevsky is still Vasi, and he is phenomenal, but I don't know. I'm just feeling like Tampa Bay's window is nearing its closing end. And last season, I thought they could do better than they did in the playoffs. So maybe I'm overcorrecting, throwing them down at 5 here in the Atlantic. But like you, I have 2, 3, and 4 the same. I have Ottawa at 4, Toronto at 3, Montreal at 2. I think it's Montreal's turn to bounce Toronto in the first round. I think what you said about little brother, big brother, I think Ottawa's going to be the one that sends Florida packing in the first round. And we'll get to the Metropolitan, but I think Tampa Bay is going to give whoever's first in the Metro some fits in the first round. But like I said, they might be heading a bit for the door. The big thing for me is that these 5 teams, the separation between team 1 and team 5, I think is going to be less than 10 points. Like, whoa. I think these teams are all going to finish so close, neck and neck to each other. It's going to come down to the final games of the season.
Okay. I like that tenacity. Okay. So just to recap from 8 to 1, who do you have? Just 8 to 1.
8 to 1, 8 Buffalo Sabres, 7 Boston Bruins, 6 Detroit Red Wings, 5 Tampa Bay Lightning, 4 Ottawa Senators, 3 Toronto Maple Leafs, 2 Montreal Canadiens, and at number 1, your defending Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers.
And I want everybody to know, we genuinely did not have any discussions prior to this episode. So I am actually really surprised that we ended up so close on some of those. That is a little shocking to me. I mean, all the better for it, but that's interesting that we saw the Florida teams kind of in 2 different ways. So that's fun though. I think that's fun. So can't complain there. So I guess really there's not much more discussion to be had other because we agreed. So I'm pretty surprised. That's shocking, but okay.
Well, it just means we can be wrong together because with the Atlantic, we talked about it last year. It's the hardest division to pick and get right. It feels like every year. So at least we'll be standing in solidarity, or maybe because our minds melded without even realizing it, we'll just have done better than anyone else in the world with predicting the Atlantic this year. It can only go one of 2 ways.
Well, everybody keep track of these predictions so you can come and flame us later for them because we absolutely anticipate it. I guess we'll stay in the East here and move on to the Metropolitan. Would you like to go first here on the Metropolitan?
Sure, we can switch it up.
Yeah, what do you got?
So I'm just going to say these in pairs. At 7 and 8, we'll talk Pennsylvania, and at 5 and 6, New York. At number 8, it is going to be the Pittsburgh Penguins. Is it a rebuild? Is it not? Sidney Crosby wants to finish his career there. I don't know. I don't know how to judge Pittsburgh. At 7, Philadelphia, I think they're going to start to improve a little. At 6, the New York Islanders. At 5, the Rangers, because they are just, whenever you think they're up, they're down, and down, they're up. They're like the new Detroit Red Wings. I don't know what to do with them. At 4, I see the Washington Capitals, I think they're going to regress some. At 3, I said it before, Columbus is making the playoffs this year, and I am stamping that with authority. I hinted at it last year, but I believe wholeheartedly the Blue Jackets will be a playoff team this year. At 2, the New Jersey Devils, once they have all their injuries settled from last year. And at number 1, the Carolina Hurricanes, who I just keep betting on, and they keep letting me down in the conference final every year.
Sorry, I was just silently screaming there as the Avalanche are trying to tie up this game here in the dying seconds, and they almost did, but just not quite bouncing their way. But they've been outshot heavily in this game, and if they do lose, of course, it's going to happen right after I said the Avalanche have been undefeated in the preseason. Yeah, of course. I need to not talk. What am I doing? But. Any other notes on what on your rankings there? Those are fun. This one we are not as in agreement on.
Then how about you share yours and we can discuss through it a little bit more there.
So there's the empty netter question mark? No empty netter. Did they just call a penalty on the Avalanche in a preseason game? Or what? Hold on. Okay, I won't get distracted here. We are in agreement, but we're also not in agreement. We are and we aren't. So at number 8, I have the Flyers, and at number 7, I have Pittsburgh. So just kind of swap those two. They did call a penalty. At number 6, I have the Islanders. And the Islanders, they're young. They're fun. They are not under the watchful gaze of Big Brother Lou Lamoriello, but they're not gonna be any good. At 5, I have the Blue Jackets. Now, at 5, they could still make the playoffs, barring they beat all the teams from the Atlantic, which I don't know if they can. I also would like to see Columbus make the playoffs. And as much as I want to believe that they can, it's just that these other teams make it hard for me to say that they will. At number 4, I have the Rangers, who I think now that the dust has settled and the drama is over, will be, how do the kids say, less ass than last year. I don't think they'll be as great as some people are predicting them to be, but I don't think they will be nearly as terrible as they were last year. But I also don't know if that means they make the playoffs or not. But I do think they will mildly improve. At number 3, I have the Capitals, who I think will regress from last season. I think it was kind of what's the word I'm looking for? An outlier that they ended up being in first last year, but still a very good team. Great to see OV break history. They have a solid goaltending tandem in net with Logan Thompson and, oh my God, Charlie Lindgren. No, yeah, Charlie, brother of Ryan Lindgren. We're good. I'm there. But I do think they regress a little bit this season. At number 2, I have the Devils for the same reason that you do, in that I think if the injuries are sorted out, they're all good. They just re-signed Luke Hughes today, so they don't got to worry about that. Jack Hughes is an incredible talent who I think is getting a lot of recognition that he deserves. So if he stays healthy the whole year, they will be in good shape. Their D-core is solid as hell. They have an absolutely lethal top 6. With guys who are up for the Selke Trophy quite often. For those who don't know, that is the best defensive forward. Not only can they defend against you, but they can score. And at number 1, winning the division, again, I have the Carolina Hurricanes, which I don't think much needs to be said about the Hurricanes. They're just consistently a powerhouse. They thrive under Rod Brindamore's... Who is that? Rod Brindamore's system. They'll probably make it to the conference finals and lose in 4 games again. So, yep, that is my Metropolitan rankings.
And, I mean, we do have general agreement there. 1 and 2 are the same, and I agree. I think Carolina probably loses in the conference finals to somebody from the Atlantic, or maybe they lose to New Jersey if New Jersey's fully healthy or sooner. The only place where we really differ, because we have the Islanders at 6, and we both agree they're going to be mid at best. The kids, I think these days, the Gen Alpha brain rot, I think would say they'll be 6, 7.
I hate
but
you. You're
at
fired.
at 7 and 8, the Pennsylvania teams, I could flip those. So if 7 Penguins, 8 Flyers, whatever. I think this middle 3, 4, 5 though for the Capitals, Rangers, and Blue Jackets, that's interesting because the Rangers
could fall anyway.
Yeah, I think for the Rangers, I need to see it to believe it at this point.
That's fair.
I think we're in agreement that the Capitals are going to regress.
I think you're regressing them like a little too much. Like 1 to 5 is kind of crazy.
Washington's
or
at
1 to
4.
4, sorry, but still, that's a big drop for a team that's relatively unchanged from last year. I think you're ranking them a little low.
And it's possible I am. I think last year, again, was an outlier, a bit of a flash in the pan. I'm that much of a believer in Columbus, and maybe I'm too high on Columbus, and that's what gets Washington slotted down an extra spot. But I think Columbus has a lot of young talent, a lot of potential. Do I think they're going to be overly successful? Not in particular. I think they're going to lose pretty badly to New Jersey in the first round, assuming New Jersey's healthy. But I have been a believer. I will continue to be a believer in Columbus. So I think maybe I'm stuck in that pick and just wanting to believe it. I'm wish casting Columbus a little bit for sure. There's my bias coming out, but I see potential there. I think when we're talking about the future, we know Montreal is best set up in the Atlantic right now, and Carolina is probably best set up. New Jersey, you talked about how great they are, but in the next 3 to 5 years, I think Columbus is probably number 3 of the remaining teams in the Metropolitan. So I didn't feel terrible putting them there because I hate to say it, but I think Ovi is going to retire after this season. I don't want it to happen.
I think you're right. I think you will too.
But I think, and I don't think it's going to happen in the playoffs after all the hype and everything, him breaking the record last year. I just think it's going to be a more quiet send off with them missing the playoffs altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, on to the Pacific Division. I will start at number 8. I have the Kraken. Fuck the Kraken! We don't like the Kraken here. At number 7, I have the San Jose Sharks, up from the bottom last year. At number 6, I have the Calgary Flames. At number 5, I have the Vancouver Canucks, although I could argue to switch those in my mind. At number 4, I have the Los Angeles Kings. Number 3, I have the Anaheim Ducks. At number 2, I have the Oilers. And at number 1, I have the Knights winning the division again. Starting with the easy stuff here at the top, it's hard to bet against the Knights, even with Alex Pietrangelo being out this season. I thought he had retired, but I guess he's now stated that he wants to try, but he will not be playing with the team this season. It's hard to bet against them, especially with the acquisition of Mitch Marner. This team did get better. Like, yeah, there's a little bit of question in goaltending. Me and Dom are noted Aiden Hill haters. And I don't know. I think Akira Schmid is supposed to be their backup. So very unproven in that regard, but Vegas has proven that they just kind of know how to win. And it's the same situation with the Oilers. They piss me off, and I think they're terrible and stupid and stinky, but they just win every year. And that's because they have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDingle. And they did just acquire their solution in net in Connor Ingram today. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go for them. Like we already talked about with the Ducks, I'm looking at it from purely a hockey perspective because I have voiced my displeasure and disapproval of Joel Quenneville already on this podcast a ton of times, so I will not continue to do so. But he's a coach who obviously knows how to win as well, so that might be good for that young core, which that's the case. It is a young core with a lot of studly talent. They have Jackson Lacombe, who apparently is the next coming of Cale Makar, in that he's just a very talented young offensive defenseman who people are saying is going to have control over the game. But of course, he's under-recognized because he's in Anaheim right now. But people might be seeing him more and more this year as the Ducks get better. The Kings, I agree with Dom. They are getting older, and I think their offseason moves made them considerably worse. So I don't think this team, maybe considerably is a little harsh, but I don't think this team got better. So I don't see a reason for them to still place third, especially if they're usurped by the Kings. The Canucks, some people think they're going to finish higher. Some people don't. I don't think they will. I'm just not sold on their entire team composition as a whole. I have to see Elias or is it Elias or Elias? One of the Petterssons, EP40. I need to see him actually do better to believe that he can do better. I want him to do better. Nobody deserves to suffer, but that locker room was trash last year with all the drama, but I just don't think they have enough guns in their offensive in their forward group to actually do a lot of scoring. Quinn Hughes is absolutely amazing. I'll never deny that, but him and Philip Hronek, their defense actually overall is really good, and I'm sure it'll continue to be with Adam Foote being their head coach. But yeah, I just don't see him being earth shakers. The Flames, Dustin Wolf is great. The rest of the team really isn't, and they're probably going to lose Rasmus Anderson. So who knows? The Sharks, already talked about them. Think they're going to take that step, and the Kraken literally are unimpressive. Joey Decord is like their only good player, and maybe Jared McCann. So there you go. There's my absolutely shallow and surface level analysis of the Pacific Division.
And obviously, this is the division that I paid the most attention to because I see the most of these games. This is the most I've seen from rivalries. I just have the backstory. I have a little bit more, not the insider info, but this is what I see in my feed. And we agree. I think Seattle, there is nothing inspiring about them. I think they get to be in a battle with Chicago for worst in the West and with Buffalo for worst in the league altogether. I see nothing for optimism for Seattle other than those. I hate how good they are. New third jerseys that glow in the dark. My
those things were cool. Those things were pretty cool.
It is too cool, and it's being wasted in Seattle. But I digress. San Jose, yeah, I have them at 7. All the inspiration, the hope, the wish casting I've given them, I can't move them up further. Although I was tempted. I almost put them at 6 instead of Calgary. I think Calgary is going to fall down to earth. I think that that team couldn't put the puck in the net enough last year, and they were only relevant because of Dustin Wolf. And it is very, very hard for goaltenders to repeat that same level of play in back-to-back years. We see it every year. I'm calling sophomore slump, and he's going to fall down to earth, and I don't necessarily want it to happen. I'm not wishing ill on the man, but I think his stats are going to take a significant hit this year to make it that San Jose being close with Calgary is not going to be a crazy proposition. We both said it, and you wanted to be a little bit kinder. I think Los Angeles, their roster fell off the map. You wanted to be nice about it. I have no love lost for the Kings, and I really think they did get significantly worse. I have them missing the playoffs altogether, as I said, so I have them at 5. And that's why I have Vancouver at 4. I think when you look at those teams, Los Angeles, Calgary, Seattle, and even my beloved Sharks, I just don't see a team with upside that I think is really pushing for the playoffs. And Vancouver's got their problems, but what one player can make the difference? It's Quinn Hughes. And I think if Vancouver figures their shit out enough, Quinn Hughes can at least get them to 4th in this overall quite weak division currently. And like you're saying, I think Anaheim's been severely underrated. I think they're flying below the radar, which is going to help them a lot. I think Anaheim could even beat Edmonton in the first round of the playoffs in a 2-3 matchup because Edmonton's gotten used to seeing Los Angeles there and just automatically move into the next round. I think Anaheim's going to stop that in its tracks, but that can be a discussion for a different day. And then only Vegas,
fucking dream.
Yeah, it pains me to say that I have 2 hated rivals in the 3 playoff spots, but Vegas, they're missing Pietrangelo, and that's a big loss for them defensively. But adding Mitch Marner is beyond huge. I think he's going to do so much better in Vegas. The vibes are better there. I think the system's going to fit him better because they're such a physical team. They open up spaces of ice for a guy like him to operate, and he adds a different dynamic piece to their offense that maybe they were missing last season. They know how to to win, to be successful in this Pacific, and to do well in the playoffs. And I hate it. I really hate that it's Vegas, but I have to put them on top just like you did. So Edmonton, Vegas, and Anaheim, or sorry, Vegas, Edmonton, the top 3 in order. I think those are your 3 Pacific playoff teams. And then from there on down, we can argue about which mid to bad team is going to finish in what order.
There was one thing we forgot to mention with Vegas, Tom.
Oh, were you thinking?
I was thinking, fuck you, Rico! That's what I was thinking. For those of you who are very confused right now, there is a lovely Vegas fan in Dom's life, and we always make sure to spread the love to him every time we talk about the Knights. Or in some way, I think we always find a way to say fuck you, Rico, every episode. Rico, we love you. And if you ever want us to stop saying fuck you, just let us know. But we don't know if Rico even listens to this podcast, so I'm saying fuck you, Rico, for like 40 plus episodes, and maybe he doesn't even know.
He's a part of the lore, and you know, if you knew the man, that would be enough for him. He would enjoy it. There used to be a saying called Rico's World. He's iconic, and just somehow the limelight always finds him. So the fuck you, Rico, just fits his aura.
I love that. All right, time for the last one. And Dom, it's your turn to go first. So hit us with I think this is the other hardest division. So hit us with the Central Division.
This is going to get spicy, and we'll have some conversations. So let's get the easy ones out of the way.
Oh,
Chicago Blackhawks at 8, no discussion needed. They're not there yet. They will be good one day. Predators at 7, nothing inspiring about them. They're aging. Good luck to them. At anywhere for 3 through 6, I struggled with mightily. And I'm going to go with Minnesota at 6. They find a way to choke it away or just have injuries act up. I, like you, would like to see Utah potentially make the playoffs, so I have the Mammoth at 5. Winnipeg, I was really struggling what to do with. I put them at 4. I think St. Louis is going to be good this year. I think the progress we've seen over the last couple of years is going to continue. St. Louis is going to be at 3. I have, sorry, Avs fans, that this is just a preseason ranking. I have the Avalanche at 2 and the Dallas Fuck Stars at 1 in the Central. So like I said, it's going to get spicy. Let's have a conversation here about this, Corey.
Well, everyone, enjoy Dom's
at least you don't have to play Dallas in the first round.
Enjoy Dom's last episode on the podcast, everybody. I'm getting a new co-host after this. He doesn't agree with me, so I got to get rid of him. Now, all right, I'll just share mine, and then we'll just dive full into it here. So we did have agreements. Blackhawks, Predators, bottom, easy. I had the Blues at number 6. I had the Mammoth at 5. I had the Wild at 4. And then at 3, I had the Jets. At 2, I had the Stars. And at 1, winning the division, I had the Colorado Avalanche. Let me just say this before we say anything else. This division is exceptionally hard because 6 out of the 8 teams, all, you could say the Predators do, but there's no chance, all have playoff aspirations. All of these teams want to get into the playoffs. And I think just like last year, 5 of the Western playoff teams are going to come from the Central Division. And it is so unbelievably difficult to determine who the odd one out is going to be, in my opinion. Because I could see any of these teams really being anywhere. I do think the Stars and Avs, no problem. They're going to be in that top 3. But as for everybody else, I have no fucking idea. This is just how I think. This is just how I think it's going to shake out. But Dom, go ahead, and I'll yell at you.
Sounds great. Yeah, we agree. The bottom 2 are the bottom 2. The top 2 are going to be fine. Similar to what's going to go on in the Atlantic. You got 4 teams battling for 3 spots. And yeah, I struggled. There was a moment when I had Winnipeg as the 6, where I'm like,
no way.
Is it just going to fall apart? And then I was like, no. That's an overreaction. And then I had Utah at 6 as the most logical thing, but I think they're going to take a step, so I couldn't put them at 6. I don't know. Something about St. Louis, I see upside, and something about Minnesota, I just see choke, for lack of a better word. If it's injuries, if it's they spent all their money on Kaprizov, if it just never seems to work out for Minnesota for whatever reason, it just never seems to work out for Minnesota. And I don't know. You know what? If you told me like just put these 4 teams in a random number generator and whatever the output was, I'd probably just say, yeah, that sounds about right. Like
oh boy. Yeah, it's exceptionally tough because, I mean, the Blues made the playoffs last year. Barely, but they made it. And, I mean, Montgomery is a great coach. Binnington is Binnington, for better or for worse. They have some great studs. Robert Thomas, Colton Parayko, Jordan Kyrou. Need I go on? They have good players. I don't know if I'm sold on it because the Wild also kept pace with the Jets last year until injuries fucked them up. And now they have Kirill Kaprizov locked up. Now they have Marco Rossi locked up. And I mean, Philip Gustafson is a good goaltender. So, it is just, it's hard to say. The Central Division, I mean, besides me feeling like the Avalanche are going to finish 1 or 2, is, I think, the hardest one for me to call, because all of these teams I could see making it. Besides the Blackhawks and the Predators, I could see all of these teams fucking making a real run for it. So we'll see. We will see.
And we agree there. And that's where I think this is what makes the Central the undisputed toughest division, is because it is similar to the Atlantic, except for you have 5 teams in the Atlantic competing for what I think is realistically either 4 or 5 spots. But I could see one of those Atlantic teams slip out for Washington to make it, and a Columbus and a New York Rangers. Like the balance with the Metropolitan's a little bit closer. The fact that the Central is just going to own the Pacific once again, it's going to be 5 of those 6 teams. And yeah, I mean, the team that is the odd man out is not going to be by much. We're talking less than 5 points, probably less than 3, is going to decide who's the 8 seed and who's sitting on the couch. And the 8 seed playing either Dallas or Vegas is going to be very live as an 8 seed for having a first round upset, because they're going to be a really, really good 8 seed. I mean, they'll probably be better than whoever the 3 seed is in the Pacific. And this is why I've heard players talk about it. We'll have the debate at some point this season. We should go back to ranking teams 1 to 8, and sure, what'll be will be, but there would be a hypothetical path where all 6 of those teams that are deserving could end up in the playoffs. And I've heard some players call for it, but I do think we should consider, or Gary Bettman should consider, changing the playoffs back to ranking based on points, not just this conference or division based.
Yes. And I think a lot of people, including Cale Makar, agree with you. Well, everybody, if you're still with us, send us your division rankings, regardless of how spicy or vanilla they may be. We want to see what you got. So send us your division rankings. You can send it to our email, Captain Avalanche Fancast 1, Captain Avalanche Pod 1 at gmail.com. I had to think about that. Or on our Instagram at Captain Avalanche Fancast. So send us your predictions. But as we wind down here, I think it's time for some season previews just on the whole. And I have something fun for this one, Dom, because I have an argument encoded in my season preview.
Oh, an argument like you and I are gonna go toe to toe? Are we arguing with somebody else? Because I'm happy to be on your team.
We're arguing with somebody else today.
Well, then let's do that. That sounds like fun. I kind of sprinkled in my previews in bits and pieces throughout the evening. So let's just go through your season preview and have this argument to wrap us up.
All right, let's do it. There are a lot of reasons to be excited for the Colorado Avalanche this season if you are a fan. There are always reasons for over-optimism and sour skepticism. But bottom line, I believe this team is primed for a great regular season and an even better playoffs. I believe the pieces and stars have aligned better than in seasons past. Is there bias? Of course there is. We had this whole conversation before, and look at the name of the show. But before I dive too deep, I want to acknowledge the arrivals and the exits. Let's start with the sad ones first, and that is notable exits of Jonathan Drouin, Charlie Coyle, and Miles Wood. I had love for all of these players one way or another. I personally would have loved the most to have kept Coyle, to have absolutely filthy center depth, but it seems that Jack Drury is primed to be given the opportunity to take the next step in his career and be that third line center. And the other positive from that is a young prospect is given a chance to shine and maybe take that fourth line spot for the long term. And if it doesn't work out, the Avalanche have never been shy at acquiring what they need from elsewhere. Jonathan Drouin was great, and playoff and power play performances and injuries aside, he did seem happy here. He was always a great interview and said the right things and seemed to really enjoy playing alongside Nathan MacKinnon. The problem was, once Gabriel Landeskog officially returned, there was no more room for him at the top. JD had demonstrated he thrived best in those top 6 minutes and struggled when he was forced down to the third line where he likely would have resided. His depth would have been welcomed, but he will get that top 6 opportunity and paycheck in Long Island, so I don't fault him for that. As for the arrivals, the biggest ones are Dom's fan favorite, Brent Burns, Victor Olofsson, and young Zakhar Bardakov. We have already discussed the young center, so we'll dive deeper into the other notable additions. For those who were perhaps not with us last season, I joked about Brent Burns joining the Avs, thinking there was no way it could happen. Well, in case you're under a rock and haven't listened to a single thing I've said, he is on the team, and early returns are promising. Burns is an absolute animal and still has some crazy speed and durability at a 925 continuous game streak. This is his 22nd season, and he played his first NHL games against the likes of Joe Sakic and Mark Messier, if that gives you any scope for how long he has been in the league. The Carolina Hurricane Disaster Bro fans have spoken incredibly highly of him when he was in an elevated role for Carolina, and in a reduced role here in Colorado, he should, in theory, thrive very well. Quarterbacking the second power play unit and easily can elevate in case of injuries. He is an excellent addition to an already stacked blue line. We'll perhaps deep dive into him a bit more later. Victor Olofsson's nickname is Victor Golofsson, and watching old highlights, it is easy to see why. He is a pure sniper and power play specialist, which the Avalanche are in desperate need of after the team's woes of last season. He can add an excellent scoring punch to the bottom 6 and can elevate to the top 6 in case of injuries. He makes the second or first power play unit even more lethal, which makes newly arrived power play coach Dave Haxtell's job very fun. Also, Olofsson took a big step up in his defensive game with the Golden Knights last year, so that's always good. But speaking of Dave Haxtell, let's talk about him, another new arrival. I do not believe Jared Bednar's job is in danger, and Haxtell has plenty of varied coaching jobs and experience throughout the NHL, and I think that it will help to have a power play loaded with, or I think he will help a power play loaded with weapons thrive. However, should Jared Bednar falter, I believe Haxtell is the one immediately up next for the job, but I think he is more there just to provide a little fire under the ass of Bednar. But again, I don't anticipate any real danger there. Finally, a little surprise is Brock Nelson. He isn't a new addition per se, but he is a permanent one. He chose to stay instead of going to free agency, where he could have gotten much more. He was motivated by a multitude of factors to stay. Is the cap a bit high? Perhaps. He didn't owe this team a debt of loyalty like Matt Duchene and John Tavares did, taking their hometown discounts. This isn't his hometown. But I appreciate that he did stay because his chemistry with Gabe Landeskog looked great in the playoffs, and with a full season, I can only imagine what they'll do. Brock Nelson is also a picture-perfect definition of consistency, good for 25 to 30 goals and 50 to 60 points every single year. Perfect. Once again, there is a reason he has represented the U.S. on the international stage. That is what I have for that, Dom. Any comments before we get into our argument?
First, just going to give you a quick little breather there. Quite impressed. That was quite the run you were on there.
Trying to keep us in time here.
Awesome. But yeah, we'll have to talk about Brent Burns another time, because no matter what Carolina has to say, I guarantee I have more nice things to say. Because, yeah, as you mentioned, he is just the best. Victor Golofsson, what a nickname. Well done. And I will from now on be calling him Barrett Jednar, and you can't change my mind. It just sounds awesome.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, Jared. I'm sorry. Oh, was that all?
Hello? Oh, that was all. Okay. Like you were saying, I don't want to take too long. I think Brock Nelson is a known thing, like you said, and I don't have anything.
Okay. Argument time. To actually preview the season as a whole, I thought what better way to do it than to disagree with someone else. Now, the account that I am referring to, and I won't say who, but I do have a lot of love for them because they are great for getting me to the minute on the minute hockey news, but I don't want people going and losing their minds in his comment sections. And if you do know this account, have some class and respect. I'll have some energy and some spunk in my thoughts, but that's who I am, and that doesn't mean I have any ill will towards this individual, just wanting to engage in civil discourse. But this account, to give you some context here, has been going through their preseason power rankings from 32 to 1, and one would expect the Avalanche to finish somewhere within the top 16 as a playoff team. So you could imagine my surprise when I saw the Avalanche ranked at 17 and straight missing the playoffs in this person's mind. So we'll go through his comments line by line and talk about it in context for the Avalanche this season. So this is what he said in the description or in the caption of the post. Continuing on with our, let's start over. Quote, continuing on with our standings projections, I've got the Colorado Avalanche at number 17. 17 is the very last team on our list to miss a playoff spot, close quote. And Dom, please feel free to jump in here at any time. But first, I'll start right here. The Avalanche have made the playoffs for the last 8 years with Nathan MacKinnon and Jared Bednar driving the bus. I find it incredibly hard to believe that this is the year they suddenly fall off the wagon, despite being a part of arguably the most competitive division that we talked about. There may come a day when the window closes and all of the first-round picks and young prospects that the Avs have traded come back to bite them in the ass, but I truly do not believe that this year of all years to be the year that they fall off so drastically that they miss the playoffs entirely.
Yeah, let me jump in here. I'm sorry. We were all high on the Central Division. We are high on the Utah Mammoth. The Utah Mammoth and the Colorado Avalanche are not even in the same league. I mean, yes, they're in the NHL. Yes, they're in the same division. That's not what I mean. These two teams are, the Mammoth are not there yet. So the disrespect to, I guess in theory here, be putting the Avalanche below them. That's how I'm going to interpret this because of how high we are on the Central, Corey, and we both believe Utah's going to make the next step up. So if 5 teams are making it from the Central, that's somehow saying the Avalanche are the odd one out. You and I both agree they're going to be a top 2 team. So there's some disrespect here. I get it. The Central's wide open, but I think this is a stretch. If he was trying to be disrespectful but somewhat realistic, he could have put him at like 14 or something like that.
And I don't necessarily think he was trying to be disrespectful. I do think that this is just him sharing his thoughts. And again, I respect that. And hockey fans are super volatile. The comment sections are pretty brutal. But I just want to use this as an opportunity to voice my own thoughts and use it as a platform to talk about the Avs going into this season. And like I said, no hate at all towards this individual. I just don't agree with him, which we are allowed to do. But here's some
fair
teams.
enough. Yeah, you're right. no hate towards him. I don't hate him either, but definitely
I don't
100%
agree.
disagree.
Here are some teams he has ranked above them. He's only at number 8 in his predictions so far. But at 8, he had the Ottawa Senators. At 10, he had the New York Rangers. Let me see. At 12, he had the Los Angeles Kings. At 13, he had the Wild. At 14, he had the St. Louis Blues. Let me keep looking here. At 15, he had the Utah Mammoth. And at 16, let me see here. He had the Montreal Canadiens. So he had the Avalanche below a lot of those teams. So yeah, do with that information what you will.
I mean, I think we fundamentally disagree because me and this person, because I obviously don't consider either the Rangers or the Kings to be a playoff team. And I think the Rangers might be a bit closer and might scratch in as the number 16. Fine. But trying to tell me that Ottawa's going to finish ahead feels like a stretch. I mean, we could debate all the Central teams once again, but we've already shared all our thoughts. So I'll save that for another day in the interest of time.
And who knows, maybe we're both wrong, and not you and me both wrong, but like us as a collective and him are both wrong. So who knows? To continue though, he says, look, I very well know this could come back to bite me in the butt, because when your team has McKinnon and Makar, they can do anything. But the depth of this squad really does scare me, close quote. I don't know if he means that the depth scares him because it is so present and improved from seasons past, or because he has such doubt in that depth. I think based on what we'll see here in a moment, or read here in the moment, it is the latter. To continue on here, quote, Martin Necas is an unknown. Last season was his first point per game season of his career. He had 53 points the year before that. Even with elite production last season, he is nowhere close to filling the hole that Mikko Rantanen left at offense, close quote. My response to this is, he is absolutely right in the sense that Martin Necas is not Mikko Rantanen. No one is. Rantanen is a one of one and is one of the most gifted wingers in the league. He will never be replaced or forgotten within the Avalanche organization. However, some people have compared the Avalanche to the Leafs in that they both lost a star top 10 winger who has left a gaping hole in the lineup with no replacement. I disagree. The Leafs got a great third-line center in Nick Waugh in exchange for Marner, and that's it. The Avalanche got center and face-off depth and a much younger player in Necas, and really Drury as well, who was already budding into a star. Martin Necas has been trending upward, and I see no reason to believe that won't continue. The Avalanche's speed suits his playstyle perfectly, and he can thrive all over the ice. He is a zone entry machine and has an absolute nuclear missile of a shot. Not to mention Jack Drury, who has excelled in the bottom six and is also primed to take another step in his career. So yes, the Avalanche lost Mikko Rantanen, and we can get into that whole discussion another time, but they didn't lose him for nothing, and I choose to put faith in Necas and Drury going forward. Necas could possibly hit 90 to 100 points in this season and going forward. That scoring isn't totally lost in the top six. Could Necas regress? Sure. Any player could anytime. Sports are weird like that, but he won't.
And I think that last point there is key, because could he regress? Could he have some fluctuation up and down? Sure. But when the statement that is saying that Necas is unproven, I think is what I disagree with, because he is such a young player and has shown this steady upward trajectory, going from 53 points to a point per game pace. That is a solid jump. That is showing the progress we want to see. And you're right. I agree with you, Corey, that in the Avalanche system, this highlights what Necas is good at in being fast and using open ice, using the fluid motion and adapting on the fly rather than just playing a fixed position or an area of the ice. And that might have some defensive liability at times, but I think on the offensive side, I don't see a liability. If anything, I see you're stable. When you talk about Brock Nelson, stable 25 to 30 goals, 60 points a year. I think Nate just has a higher floor and is your Brock Nelson for the long term, where he's going to be your stable, let's say 70 to 80 points a year for the next couple of years in your second line, in your top line, where he's not going to be McKinnon, but he doesn't have to be. He can play with McKinnon, play off McKinnon. And that's my perspective, but I think he's going to maybe not have the highest ceiling. He's not Rantanen. Absolutely agree with that. But I think he has a absolutely solid floor, and people were talking about his potential before this. So unproven in one sense, yes, but in another, I think he's proven himself by being a point per game player.
Exactly. Moving forward, quote, what can we expect from a full season of Landeskog? It was a feel-good story in the playoffs, but this is an 82-game season where injuries come and go easily. Will his body break down? Will he still be a top 6 forward? Listen, before I even read what I wrote here, just going over this again, anybody can get injured anytime in the NHL. That is the absolutely fucked and brutal nature of the sport. It's awful. You never want to see your guys go down. So could Landeskog get injured in a completely unrelated way to his knee? Absolutely he could. Do I think he will become injured because of that knee? No. I am genuinely overhearing the doubt and question marks in Landeskog's game. If he wasn't fine, he would be honest and he would say so. But he is preparing and playing like a player who's ready to fucking play. 3 years is a long time, but he looked incredible in the playoffs. I could perseverate on the point for a while, but the presence of Landeskog also goes far beyond just having a top 6 winger. That's the team's captain, and they have needed him on the ice and in the locker room for every season that he's missed. It doesn't fucking matter if he was a top 6 forward or a bottom 6 guy. I thought he would be lucky to play on the third line when he came back. He came in and he's like, fuck your life, bing bong, and absolutely went off. The impact of his presence and play goes far beyond just his body. He is a leader and a well-respected one. He is more than just a feel-good story. I know he didn't mean any disrespect by that comment, but
I'm hearing that, and I took that personally coming from you right now, and I can't blame you because honestly, when you said something there at the start, and that is, every single person in the NHL is injured at some point in the season, whether or not they miss time, or if they play all 82 games, or if they play 80, or if they play 75, or they play 60. Every single player, even if they play every single game, is injured at some point and playing through it. That is the nature of the NHL. Nobody is getting through without any bumps, bruises, and scrapes. So I think Landeskog, though, throughout his career has shown that he is tougher than most. The fact that I think it would be worse, or his body would be more likely to break down if he was playing on the third or fourth line, where it is more physical. I think it also, with shorter, sharper shifts, if he's pushing himself harder, that is more likely to re-aggravate a lower body injury, a knee injury, an ankle injury, those type of things. So when he can skate a bit more fluid, get into the rhythm of his game, I actually think it suits him better for his longevity long term. That's my personal perspective, just based on the physicality of the different lines. But I think I couldn't agree with you more, Corey. He's the captain. He is the heart and soul of this team. I think when we've talked about cup window, when he retires is when the discussions of if the Avs cup window is closing should begin. Until then, everybody needs to start putting some respect on Colorado's name.
Truly. And thank you for your thoughts there, Dom. Don't get it twisted, though. Landeskog's still going to beat some ass, everybody. He already beat someone's ass for elbowing Cale Makar, so he's back, baby. The captain's back. Moving forward, though, quote, and Brock Nelson certainly didn't play like a top 6 forward during his time with Colorado last season either. Even Nichushkin has played 60-plus games in a season just once over the last 5 seasons. Can he stay in the lineup at a consistent rate? Brock Nelson had a rough playoffs. I do not disagree with that. But we only saw one round, and sometimes players take a round or two to wake up. However, you often don't get that chance, unfortunately. There is absolutely more to be desired there, but I wholeheartedly disagree with his lack of top 6 ability. He had 13 points in 19 games after coming over, which is actually better than his career average of 0.63 points per game. He had a 0.68 regular season points per game in his time with Colorado. Last season, he had a total of 56 points, which is far from his career high, but is consistent with what we expect from Nelson. Not to mention his family wasn't even here, which can have a big effect on a player because sometimes we forget that they're human beings. But I imagine with a full training camp and integration in this system, as well as his family now being moved here, Nelson will be excellent this next season. The Nichushkin point is a valid concern. I love the train, but 2 seasons of playoff exits after a Nichushkin, quote, incident doesn't feel great. But he came back last season and kept it clean. Now, there is still an injury concern, absolutely. But I think in regards to the issues that he is fully aware of the circumstances. If he fucks up, and we've talked about it before on this show, that's it. There's no more second chances from the Avs and the NHL as a whole. But Nichushkin has also shown that when he goes, and is an absolute force on both sides of the puck. If he has it, he keeps it. And if he wants it, he takes it. He did lead the playoffs in scoring at one point before an incident, and I won't fully look past that, but he is actually starting the season with the team, so that's already a great sign.
I honestly think this question or this comment, the way it was phrased from the quote, talking about Brock Nelson being a top 6 forward, Nichushkin has played 60-plus games only in one season over the last 5, yada, yada, right? I think this almost is a counterpoint to the initial point or concern about the Avalanche depth. When you have superstars, not every single player is going to be a superstar. You're not going to have the Canada roster on an NHL team. It's just not going to happen. So what do you have? You have Brock Nelson and Nichushkin and Natchez and Landeskog. You have these blend of players who can all be consistent. And when one of them is missing time or down, the other ones can step up. And that, I think that is the whole definition of depth right there. You have these other people who can score consistently at over 0.5 points per game. If you're over half a point per game, I think that's consistent depth right there. That's my perspective, because that means you're scoring at least once every 2 games. That to me is pretty consistent. Even if it's just an assist, that means as a team, you can keep putting up points and putting up goals and force overtime, get points, get to the playoffs that way. So I do feel like this point almost goes against or creates a conflict with the initial concern about the depth. I don't see the connection. I validate the Nichushkin concerns, but I wholeheartedly agree. Starting the season with the team, preseason, getting up to speed, getting into that rhythm and chemistry going earlier is huge. It cannot be overstated. And we haven't even talked about how great your fourth line is typically. And LOC, we haven't talked about because of the injury and such, but you want to talk about depth. I don't know what better definition of depth there is.
There isn't. Well, that's great that you say that, because the next quote is this. Can a guy like Ross Colton or Victor Olofsson really be elevated to the top 6 if needed and provide a spark? There's just so much uncertainty with what, in my opinion, is a very shaky offensive core, albeit led by an elite top 2 talent in hockey. That's closed quote. Now it's me. I do not appreciate the comment that the offensive core is shaky and put together without purpose and intention. Chris McFarland is not always the most popular guy in the room, but he doesn't just throw spaghetti at a wall and hope it sticks. He does what he and the rest of the front office feels are the best move for the team and makes them better and gives them the ability to compete. This team also has always scored goals. Last year, they were 6th in goals per game at 3.33, 1/100th of a point behind Vegas for a spot in the top 5, as well as having a points percentage well above league average. The Avalanche have never failed to score. It's that top to bottom scoring that I will fully admit isn't always spread out, but the Olofsson addition is key to helping that, along with Colton's ability to elevate when asked. And he has proven that he can, in fact, elevate, because last year when the Avalanche were injured to shit, he was on the top 6, and he was a power play scoring machine. He broke his ankle blocking a shot, but he was an absolute monster with that top six before it was broken. He stepped into that top six, like I said, due to that injuries, as well as Olofsson did it with the Vegas Golden Knights. And really, like I was saying, the Avalanche have very few spots that they needed to fill this year, either due to injuries or because they didn't have a player at that position. So to act like they have no depth at all or people that can't elevate is insanely presumptuous, I suppose.
I mean, to be fair, we were concerned about when it came before the trade deadline last year, what the Avalanche depth was looking like. But
Absolutely.
I do think they've solved that. I think they've solved that by locking up Brock Nelson, by having Marty Necas. I do think you solved it. Think of it this way. At the bare bones of the deal, you gave up Rantanen in the contract, but where did you spend the money on those two guys? So you took one superstar player that you probably couldn't afford to pay in the long term, considering when you have to pay Cale Makar, and you turned it into two solid pieces who are going to be consistent point scorers for you, goal scorers for you. And so I think, if anything, your depth, the Avalanche depth, is better than it has been. I mean, since the Cup run, that team was immaculate. But since then, the depth has been a concern. And I actually think going into this season, I would feel more confident in it than I would feel last year, ironically. The more and more we talk about this and think about it, we have evidence, as you mentioned there at the end, of examples when these guys who were unproven last year were forced to step up, and they did. Were the Avs elite early in the season? No. But did they keep in it and make the playoffs in the hardest division in hockey? Absolutely. Were they this team that gave the Stars a true 7-game series, and that whichever team won that series was probably going to the conference finals? Absolutely. So I don't know. The more of these different points come up, I feel like they're more and more going against themselves and making my point easier that the Avalanche depth is better than it was a year ago.
Oh, I'm glad you say that. Hold on. We'll get there. We're rounding out the comments here. So, quote, defensively, Colorado is more stable. The Taves-Makar pairing is consistently elite, and I believe in their bottom four to be solid. And that's close quote. That was it. So at least we agree on one thing, that Colorado does have one of the better D cores in the league. And of course, if you ask me, I think it's the best. And Colorado operates on a team defensive strategy. Everyone can jump into the play on both sides of the ice, and it has proven to be successful. With that being the point, how does having a great defense drop them entirely out of the playoffs, especially behind teams that have objectively worse defenses? Oh boy. If you
this
have
is where
something...
Bernsey comes in.
Yeah.
This is where Bernsey comes in, because he absolutely improved your defense. And the top spot is up for grabs now, because it's not going to be Carolina this year. Orlov is with the Sharks. Burns is with the Avs. So two key pieces of the Carolina defense are gone. So that mantle of best defensive core in the league is wholly up for grabs. And the Avalanche, clearly, in my opinion, should be in that conversation. Clearly in a top 12 spot if you want to talk about the 3 auto bids into the playoffs from each division. Clearly, without a shadow of a doubt, they have a top 12 D core. So glad that they can recognize that defensively, Colorado is, as a quote, stable, and that there's some respect for Taves and Makar as being elite, because that is the most electric defensive pairing in the entire league, bar none.
They are the top pair for Team Canada for a fucking reason. So let's get into a couple things here that this person did not talk about. And again, in defense of them, when you are trying to rank all 32 teams, that is hard. And it's hard because we are one person and we cannot watch all 32 teams on a consistent basis. We will watch the teams that we like, and when their games are over or not on, we'll just turn on what's on, maybe not give it our full attention, or we'll watch the other couple teams that we're fans of. So it's hard to be fully informed and knowledgeable of all teams in the league. And that's why we only talk about 2 of them here. I watch the Avs and Dom watches the Sharks, and then kind of vice versa in that regard. But I am good for always watching every Avs game. Dom is always good for watching every Sharks game. And we talk about one team to make sure we are the experts in that one team. So, I mean, all the credit to this person for taking the risk to talk about all 32 teams as a whole. And that is not an easy thing to do. Not everybody can be the hockey guy who consistently can talk about all 32 teams. And even he sometimes has opinions that I disagree with. And I'm like, you're clearly not watching that team as heavily, which how could you? It's not possible. But to poke a little bit more here, one thing that they didn't mention was that the Avalanche's goaltending situation improved dramatically with their new tandem of Wedgwood and Blackwood, the lumberyard. I mean, it cannot be understated just how much of a difference it made to not have Georgiev and Onanen in your net and instead actually get a save. They both had the same save percentage in terms of Blackwood and Wedgwood at .912 last year. They were solid. They were consistent. Blackwood did great, mostly, in his first playoff appearance. I only have faith going forward with this goaltending tandem, which should assist the Avs in getting those much needed wins early on in the season that they missed out on last year. Speaking of which, this is the big thing. You're telling me that a team who last year fielded 50 different players, 50, that they and still made the playoffs. There was a time where their top 6 had AHL players in it. And they were backed by Georgiev. And yet, at the end of the season, they were 1 win behind the Dallas Stars. 49 wins to the Dallas Stars 50. They were 4 points behind because the Stars had 2 more OT losses. You're telling me that this team that could not buy a healthy player, who now has an opening night roster, knock on fucking wood, that actually has nearly every player that you expect to be a regular roster player ready to go, that team, who is objectively deeper and better than the team that fielded 50 players last year, is going to not make the playoffs. If they had gotten 2 wins, 2, in the beginning of the season, if Georgiev or Onanen could have stepped up just once when the Avalanche scored 4 and allowed the other team to score 5, if they could have gotten 2 wins, they would have been second in the division. That's Game 7 home ice, hasta luego. That team is going to miss the playoffs. Yeah. No.
I think
no.
So many accurate things here, so many passionate things, so many things I could say. I'm just going to pick one of them, and I'm going to go with the goaltending, because I think you've said plenty and better than I ever could for the other topics there. And the goaltending truly is one of the best tandems in the league. Like, maybe Toronto is another team we call a rival, but all of these teams with just a solid 1A goaltender with no 1B behind them, how has their success been? Unless they're named Sergei Bobrovsky, they have not won a cup in the last couple of years. Look at Vegas. I shit on their goaltenders, but it's been 2 no-named goaltenders splitting time, and they're not no-named, but you get my point. They're not a Shesterkin. They're not an Ottinger. They're not a Hellebuck. Not these 1A, just Super 1 goaltenders who have to carry 50-plus games a year. No, this is a legitimate split with 2 guys playing equally well, like you said, Corey. The Lumberyard, in my opinion, is not just one of, but it is the best goalie tandem in the league, which is great for being able to perform over the long term. The fact that Blackwood is missing time, I don't think either of us are even remotely concerned, because Wedgwood has shown that he is stable. He can fill in. The moment is not too big for him. He is consistent. He is like the Lumberyard. He is like that tree you can just lean on. He's not going to go anywhere. He's there. He's blocking it. He's holding it up. So the disrespect, unintentional, of course, and we respect this person has the right to their own opinions, but to not even mention the goaltending, because you went from one of the worst, and this is just statistically the worst, statistically the worst goaltending duo in the league, to what is, I can't say statistically, but in my opinion, the best goaltending duo in the league. If you combine the 2 of them together, that is that right there is what we were talking about last year, of how much it turned your team around and how we were looking forward to this season with 1 full season of that. So all I have to say to this person is, I respect your opinions. Thank you for loving hockey and talking about it so passionately. Corey is right. I have tried to rank the 32 teams. It is difficult, and I'm sure I don't watch nearly as much hockey as you do. So all props to you, sir. Please watch the Avalanche game, and when it comes time, eat your words and humbly recant and talk about how great the Avs are. That's all I have to ask.
Yeah. I'm sorry I ate up the rest of our time here tonight, Dom, with my rant here about the Avs.
No, I enjoyed it. Honestly, like I said, the Sharks predictions, it's a little too early, and there's a lot of hype, and there's things I can talk about. And you know what? Some of the young prospects, it's just something for us to bring to the fans next week a little bit more, especially once the opening night roster is a bit more finalized. But I was really happy to talk about this. And at the end of the day, we are the Captain Avalanche Fancast. So I'm glad. I'm very happy with how today went. And I hope the fans and everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Absolutely. Well, we like to always end up our episodes with 3 players of the week and a fun fact. So for your 3 players of the week, this week it is going to be at number 3, Gabriel Landeskog, who scored a goal tonight, beat somebody's ass, got an assist, and that leads us into number 2, Gavin Brindley, who has been playing excellently in a role with the Avalanche, and the number 1, Trent Miner, for stepping in, being a brick wall against all the preseason squads. So well done to him. For your fun fact today, it was announced that the legend, the Condor, Eric Johnson, has announced his retirement, which, to the heartbreak of myself and many Avs fans, he brought so many good memories to this team, to myself. He will be missed so incredibly dearly. I can only hope that he comes to do broadcasting this year, gets a spot in the front office for the Avs. I can't imagine that he ends up in a situation where he's far away from this team. He means a lot to the fans and to the city of Colorado, or city of Denver and the state of Colorado. I love you, EJ. So I'm very sad to see you go. I wish there was a world where he could have stayed, unfortunately, but it was not meant to be. And of course, I had a fun fact pulled up, and now it is just gone. So give me a second to find it again here. Sorry, everyone. It's just gone. There it is. So here it is. EJ is a part of a very, very, what am I trying to say here? I'm very tired. Quite the list. And that's
exclusive.
Yeah, exclusive. Thank you. Very exclusive list. And that's players drafted number 1 overall in NHL history with 1,000+ games and a Stanley Cup. Eric Johnson shares that list with names such as Mike Modano, Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, Patrick Kane, Vinny LeCavalier, Guy Lafleur, Steven Stamkos, Bobby Smith, Dennis Potvin, Rob Ramage, and Marc-Andre Fleury. Pretty damn good company to be in.
That's not just an exclusive list or an elite list. That is a Hall of Fame list right there. Props to EJ.
So, EJ, if you ever hear this, you will be missed. Please come on our show. We would love to talk to you. So, that is that. Any final thoughts before we take this big first episode home, Dom?
Thank you all for following us on the journey. And if it's your first time, welcome to the podcast. For those of you returning after last season, welcome back. Please, just if you have any suggestions or topics you want to hear, please drop them in our comments or send them to our podcast email, because we're always trying to improve and bring you the best content. It's still early in the season, so now is the best time. If you have ideas, send them our way so we can make them happen before the games get full swing.
Quite right, Dom, and thank you for that. Well, everyone, we are and also for the new folks, our episodes are not normally this long. This is a bit of a special occasion here, being the first episode of the season. A lot to talk about, a lot to say. They're normally around an hour and a half to 2 hours, so that is our normal time, but we do find that these long formats are actually the things that people prefer, so expect these kind of beefy episodes to continue, and they're there to help fill in your drive or boring day. We're always here for you at the Captain Avalanche Fancast. But we're workshopping a new outro, so we'll work on it as we go. But for now, the clock is counting down to the final horn. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast. If you have something you want to know about the Avalanche, Sharks, or just hockey in general, reach out to us on our socials or email us, and we'll be happy to try and answer it. We would love to hear and read your thoughts on our Instagram. The best thing you can do if you like what we're doing here is to follow us on whatever platform you're using and share this podcast everywhere you can with everyone you can. I'm Captain Avalanche Corey.
And I'm Dom from the tank.
Check out our new episodes every week. Thanks, everyone.